contents are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are coming to you live from the back room in my house. In fact, it's raining here in Los Angeles. And so if you start hearing the pitter patter of drumming, it is not a drum circle in my house. It is the rain. And you caught me putting on some moisturizer because like all of you, I'm washing my hands compulsively. And I have the hands of a 98-year-old woman who worked in a coal mine. And like, it's crazy what a difference it makes just to put a little lotion on every once in a while. So I've got the whole thing where my knuckles are starting to like crack and bleed. This is not good. It used to be that way. I went to college in upstate New York. And sometimes, you know, just the winter, it would just take it right out of your hands and your knuckles would crack and bleed. It's not a good situation. You got to keep on top of it. So there I am. Hey, can I also tell you too, because I meant to tell you guys this the other day, that we had Dr. Temple Grandin on the show with us the other day, and we got to talking about, she and I went to NASA a couple of years ago, and I had an inside connection, and I arranged for a tour of NASA, the Johnson Space Center for her, and that I could be there and videotape it. And I have the videotape. We got to do something with that at some point because it was amazing. Can I just tell you, to be at NASA, if you're a space geek, come on. And I am. To be at NASA with Temple Grandin and a bunch of astronauts, stop. Like I was in seventh heaven. But, so we were sort of relating. At one point, we got a tour. They have a life-size model of the International Space Station on the floor. And usually when people do the extra special tour, they get to walk by it. Well, when you're Temple Grandin, you get to go in it. And when you're there filming with Temple Grandin, you get to go in it by yourself with a camera and wait to catch the shot of Temple coming into the space station. Oh my gosh, so exciting. So anyway, she and I had a really good time that day and kind of bonded over it. It was crazy, crazy good. So we were talking on the show about that, this being in isolation kind of is sort of what it must be like for the astronauts, right? That they're up there and they're, they can't go out to get groceries. They have to order them. And right. And they have to get along and they have to know that it's for a period of time and that it's for a greater good. And, so she was making the case of let's be like the astronauts. Let's manage our things. So she called me back the other day. And of course, I'm looking for it. I don't know why I can't find it. I am going to locate it. She gave me, after we got all done, she found a website where you can go and watch videos of what it's like being in the space station. And she and I were just giggling on the phone because they had one video that was about how you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So she was listening to it and narrating it for me. It was probably one of the funniest things that's ever happened to me in my life because she was just giggling away. Okay, here it is. It's called, all you have to do is Google a day in the life of the International Space, aboard the International Space Station, a day in the life aboard the International Space Station. And they have tons of videos. And if your kids like that kind of thing and want to geek out, she want to make sure that I told you guys. So that's my message of love to you from Dr. Temple Grandin. And we're hoping to have her on again. And we're even going to see if we have the potential to have her on with her mom. Like, I know, crazy, crazy, crazy. Traven, it's set up a little bit different for me, so I don't know if they've got picture and sound or whether I'm just teeny tiny, but it's my non-traditional life is saying hello, 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 hello. We're thrilled to have you here. Okay, so want to just talk for a second about the fact that we are here and we're going to keep being here as long as we have an internet connection. Like keep on internet, right? We're here live Monday through Friday at this time. It's 10 a.m. in the morning Pacific time. Math, it's 1 p.m. Eastern time. So you can catch us right after the Cuomo in New York, right after the Cuomo, what do they call those? The live press conference for the day, and then tune into Autism Live. And this is Card Spirit Week. So in honor of that, we are, they can't hear you yet unless you are watching the show. I see, talking to somebody else. Okay, so I just wanted to say that we're doing extra shows this week. So we're going to be back here at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So do the math, that's 5 o'clock Eastern time. And we're going to be doing very special shows. I'm going to be here live with Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, and we're going to be talking about some really amazing people during this emergency that are real life heroes. So I'm so excited about that. Can't wait to do that with Dr. Graham-Pichet at 2 o'clock Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Please do the math wherever you are. Now, there are lots of ways to watch the show. As always, we hope that you are tuning in the way that fits for you. I don't know if Traven has the ability to show you the graphic. Excuse me. Now I'm going to have a tickle. The graphic that shows you all the different ways that you can watch the show. We love it when you guys tune in, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, and give us real questions. Excuse me. It's not COVID, it's a tickle. I promise. Have you seen all those memes about I have allergies, not COVID? Well, that's me. Excuse me. Okay, so take a look. Of course, you can be watching us live on Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. That's the live side. And you can be writing and you can watch. Fabulous. Now, on the other side are all the places, some of the places actually, that we podcast. It's a free podcast available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Deezer. Check it out. But of course, you can always be watching us at autism-live.com. When you go there, lots and lots to do. And we hope that you'll check out our library of videos. If you're looking for something for your kiddos to do and you need a new reinforcer, check out our toy guide. And you can always chat anonymously at the bottom of the page. So there we go. Thrilled that you guys are here. So we've got a big, big show for you today. And this week especially, we wanted to do some in-depth interviews with people and get a little bit more time with them. Because, sometimes we have somebody on and it's like run on, run off, and we get somebody else. So this week we kind of streamlined a little bit, and we are, I know it's my view of things that is messing things up. Okay, there we go. So we've got a great return guest who is just remarkable, that's going to be joining us in a few minutes after we do our morning rigmarole. You're going to love her if you haven't seen her before, but truly an amazing young woman. And of course, I'm talking about Lillian Carrier. So she'll be joining us in just a few minutes. But there are a couple of things that I like to say at the start of the show. And one of them is that, we have experts on the show from various different aspects of the autism community. And by the way, we welcome everybody here. This is for the larger autism community. That starts, of course, with individuals on the spectrum. Of course, it starts with them, but it also includes everybody who loves them, right? So whether that's a parent or a sibling, we've got a great sibling story for you today. Whether it's a teacher or grandparent, we welcome those people to be here too, because we know that while it's not one size fits all, we all have one thing in common, and that's that we care about individuals on the autism spectrum and making sure that they get employment opportunities, that they have housing opportunities, that they are treated with the dignity that they deserve, right? Have access to the resources that they need as individuals. So, but on top of that, we invite experts. I always like to remind you that I am not one of them. No. My role here is just to sort of be moderator. I used to say, like an old time switchboard operator. I want to hook you up to the things that you want. And we love it when you guys write in questions and tell us what you need. So what I need is someone who can cut hair better than I, because have you noticed it's getting shorter? I told Dr. Graham Shea, I'm systematically desensitizing our audience to me being bald, because every day I take off a little bit more. We're going to do a montage at some point of Shannon's hair since COVID. You will see that it has changed dramatically, much, much shorter. And it's, it's just, I think we should have a pool to see what day am I bald. Like, it's not, people are having pools about what day are we going to return to normal. I think we should do the pool about what day will Shannon be bald on the show, because I think that's coming sooner, folks. Okay, so having said all of that, we welcome you here. I hope that you will be here and write in and tell us what you need, because I know that I know everybody's got different things going on, right? But we're all in this together. I can't stress that enough, right? So, and I'm here with you, and our guests are here with you, and we care about you. So write in and tell us what you need. Having said all that, we like to start Monday morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey, nani are the experts talking about? What does this have to do with us? Why should we care? I don't really have time for this. Used to be my mantra, right? But the truth of the matter is, if these terms can save you time and money and energy and get you progress faster, then they're useful, right? And that is the intent of us doing Jargon of the Day, because we know that it's just so overwhelming. Oh my gosh. And you don't want to be overwhelmed. So I loved that. Speaking of my crazy hair, somebody wrote to me over the weekend and said, when I was in school, in grad school, our professor made us write little mini reports on all your jargon of the day. And we know that a lot of universities use the jargon of the day to help explain to beginning students what it's like as a parent, how we don't get these terms, right? Which is, if nothing else in life, I'm so glad that there are a group of experts who understand that we don't understand their jargon. Like, I fulfilled my purpose on this planet. But he made a point of telling me that all the students would write these up, but their favorite part was seeing what my crazy hair looked like over the different days. I was like, I'll take that. I do have crazy hair. It's just one of those things that I have to live with. So there you go. So it's crazy today. It's crazy. It's much shorter. I don't know if you can see, I'm just buzzing more and more of it off. Okay, now let's get to the important thing. The jargon today is mastery. Now, this is one of those words that's very deceiving, right? Because we all go, well, I know what mastery means. I don't need you to define that for me, Shannon. Except that where it applies to autism, it's a little bit different than what we would think, because it's a very specific thing, like all things in psychology, right? So let's go ahead and look at the actual definition, see if we can poke a little fun at it, and then we'll look at the working definition. So the actual definition of mastery is the point at which the child is said to have successfully acquired the target behavior determined by previously established criteria. See, they were doing okay, and then they just had to let the whole thing go to hell in a handbasket, right? Because I'm like, oh, the point at which the child has acquired the target behavior. I can sort of figure out what that means, but then determined by a previously established criteria, and you've lost me, right? So let's take a look at our working definition and see if we can't make sense of this. And I got to tell you, this is really deceptive, because you go, oh, it's just so easy, right? But stay with me. So the working definition is when the child has independently demonstrated the desired skill at the desired level. Okay, so great. This is what we want, right? We want the child to learn something, and we want them to be able to do it at a certain level, right? But who decides that? Who decided, first of all, who decided what the skill was? And then how do we know that they have it? Because I know as a former teacher that sometimes you teach something to somebody and then you find out, oh, they didn't really learn that. Oh, I got to go back and reteach it, right? And if what we're trying to do is teach someone important life skills, we want to know that they learned it properly. So, it's an old teacher trick that before you start to teach something, you decide, how will I know whether they've learned it? You set parameters and you go, all right, I want to, I used to teach for a while, I taught ninth grade English, and I was going to teach Romeo and Juliet. So before I started teaching Romeo and Juliet, there's a lot there, right? to teach it. But, so I had to decide, I'm teaching it to ninth graders. What are the concepts that I want them to get, and how will they be able to demonstrate that they got the concepts of Romeo and Juliet? So I don't just charge in blindly and go, I hope they got it, right? I hope they're able to do it. I gotta have an idea of where I'm trying to get to. So, and that's true with anything. So if we're trying to teach a child how to, say please and thank you, right? We say, okay, here's the targeted skill. We want them to say please and thank you in the appropriate times, because you don't want just running around saying please, please, and thank you, right? You want them to say at the appropriate time. So how would we decide that that was the case? Like, what would be the established criteria? And in the field of ABA, a lot of times, to have a starting point, they'll say, okay, well, I want the child to be able to get this right how many times out of 10? Do I want them, and it's going to be different for each child. So for some children, we would say, I want them to get it right 5 times out of 10. That's a reasonable amount of time to be able to appropriately say please and thank you. For other kids, we're going to say we want it 8 out of 10. And for some kids, we might say 9 out of 10, right? Depending on, how important it is to that family and to that individual and what they're doing in their life and what the skill is, right? Because for instance, if I'm going to teach them to appropriately cross the street safely, 5 times out of 10 is not going to work, and nor is 8 or 9. They got to get it 100% of the time, right? So first of all, we say, I think that this is the appropriate criteria, that that they're going to do it 8 out of 10 times, for instance, that they're able to do it. But because we know that sometimes our kids are tricky and they have different ways of doing things. Like there's the kiddo who never gets it right on the first try because they're learning in the lesson, and they have a short-term memory deficit. So they never get it right on the first try. But then once they are reprompted, they get it and they get the rest of them right. So they're getting 9 out of 10, but they always get the first one wrong. So that's not really them having learned it. They haven't really mastered it. It's just that they can learn it again in the moment and have their memory refreshed. So we might add other things onto it. Say they have to get 8 out of 10 right, and they must get it right on the first trial. So it's very individualized. But this is the thing. So often, so much is happening in a moment, and we're teaching so many different things. And sometimes our kids get left behind when we teach way too many things in a moment. So it's really important that when we're teaching something, especially to young learners or someone who's struggling, you could be 35 years old and you're trying to learn a concept that's important to you and you're struggling. It's really important to slow down and go, okay, what am I teaching here? Because everything else I'm not going to worry about right now. Everything else we can worry about in a different moment, maybe even on a different day. So mastery really helps you to get very specific and go, here's what I'm teaching. Here's what it's going to look like when we're there. And I can put specific things in so that I know that I've taught it well. And good ABA providers will always set a mastery criteria before teaching a lesson, always. And then they don't necessarily cling to it like a crazy person, right? Because they'll begin to teach and they know what the learner is doing. And if, for instance, they see, oh, they're not getting it right on the first try, then we shift techniques and we change the mastery criteria. It's not about the mastery criteria driving the bus, but it's having a place to start and then noticing, is that helping us to get where we want to go? I always love to give the analogy about, when a plane takes off from Los Angeles to go to New York, that over 50% of the time it's off course. But the pilot keeps checking to go, okay, I gotta go this way, I gotta go that way. And they arrive in New York, but they kept checking to see where they're going. So mastery helps us to set a criteria and say, okay, this is the path we're taking. Oh, look, we got off there. Okay, we're gonna adjust the mastery criteria so that we get to the final place, which is that the individual, not necessarily a child, the individual has a basic understanding of this and is able to do this in different settings with different people in different circumstances. So that's mastery. It's what we all want, right? And then from mastery, we want to jump to generalization, which we'll talk about probably tomorrow. I think if I'm not mistaken, that is the jargon for tomorrow, because a lot of times I like to put them together. Okay, So that's mastery and super duper important. Moving on, we always have a question of the day. And our question today is very apropos. Have you watched Everything's Gonna Be Okay? Have you watched it? Because if you haven't, I really want you to take a couple of minutes and I want you to watch the show. And you'll see our guest is an actress who's on the show and somebody who's very important to the show and is a consultant on the show. We have turned into diehard fans of Autism Live. I got to see the pilot months ago and I was talking about it to everybody. And then, of course, the show aired and the entire first season is available now. And it's funny because we all talk about this show and say we love it. We're addicted to this show, but we all have to watch it like this. like we're like, oh my gosh, like most of the show. Because it's that out there, you guys. It's on Freeform, but you can watch it on Hulu. And it's really incredible. Now, I will say this is not for your little kids. This is a very adult content. I would say, though, if you have a teenager who's on the autism spectrum, you definitely should be watching this yourself and that you should consider which shows and how you would want to sit and talk about this with your teenager as a springboard to the conversations that we all need to be having with our teenagers, as uncomfortable as we may be about it. These are essential questions. There are many things we're going to talk, but you need, oh my gosh, it's so funny, you guys. I find myself mourning a little bit in this isolation about the fact that it's not still on, because Josh Thomas, who is the writer and the creator and the star of the show, I'm dying to know what his take on COVID is. Just dying to know what it would be like for this family to be in isolation. Just the very thought of it, oh my gosh. Okay, so watch it, and then write to us and tell us what you think. Be prepared. You're going to be shocked. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's shocking. It's so good. So good. Okay. And then we always have a topic of the week. And our topic this week to get us through, helping us, is very simple. What are you passionate about? I loved that somebody asked the question the other day of Dr. Temple Grandin about, how do I know the difference between something that my child is essentially passionate about? That wasn't quite how they worded it, but essentially, the difference between being passionate about something and perseverating on it. And I loved her answer because she said, it's just a matter of how you utilize it. But the truth of the matter is that most successful people in this world who've gotten really good about something, I'm sure that at some point somebody said that they were perseverating on it. And too often, I think that the things that folks on the spectrum are fascinated about and into and that are perseverating on, sometimes people get real emotional about that. I think it's passion. I think if the parents that I have seen that have said, I'm going to feed that passion, have found that their kids don't go down a well where that's all they do, but instead it opens them up to the world and the world to them. So I'd love to hear from you guys. What are you passionate about? I'm passionate about helping you to find the answers that you need. That's what I'm passionate about. I'm also passionate about my kid. I'm passionate about fireworks. I'm passionate about the universe and I'm passionate about a lot of things. But I want to hear from you. What are you passionate about? Okay, now I told you that we have an amazing guest on the show today. So, and it is a cast member from Everything's Gonna Be Okay. We are welcoming back to the show Lillian Carrier. She plays Drea on Everything's Gonna Be Okay. And she's an amazing actress and we're so thrilled. I think that we're welcoming her right now to come into the show. Lillian, are you there? She was in the waiting room. Let's see if they're able to connect her in so that that she can be here with us. She's there. Lillian, good morning. Can you hear me? Hi, Lillian. How are you?
I'm good.
It's so good to see you. Are you stuck in the rain too?
Raining right now, but it is very gloomy. It looks like it could rain any minute, and it was
Okay.
raining a little bit ago.
Okay, we're getting downpour here, and you may even hear some of it on because I'm in a part of my house where it's really loud on the roof, and normally I love that, but for a broadcast, it maybe isn't the best thing. So Lillian, welcome back to the show, and we're so excited because since the last time you were on the show, the season finale of Everything's Gonna Be Okay aired, and you had another role on a hit show that you did. Tell us about that.
Okay, so I made an appearance on NCIS New Orleans in the role of Rachel Kinnaman. It was really cool. So she is on the spectrum herself, another autistic character, super cool. And the beginning of the episode opened with her father hanging out eating breakfast, and all of a sudden there's gunfire and chaos, and you don't know if her father is dead or alive and she's on the run, and it's all crazy.
And so what was that like for you as an actress? Was that super fun? Was it hard?
It was new, but it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. Definitely a new challenge, but everyone on set was amazing. They all made me feel very comfortable. And the amazing thing about the set was all already had experience with autism, and because in my experience, when I had experience with it, they don't know if you're capable, ask you, and like there's always a I don't know if they can do this, but they have a PA on their show. It's absolutely everyone's favorite person, and he is on the spectrum himself, and his name is Desmond, and he's just the coolest person ever. So when I showed up, they were like, yeah, like she got cast in the role, she can do it, there's no question, which was amazing to experience.
I love that because I don't know that everybody realizes what a difference it is. I know at one point in my life, I wasn't aware of individuals on the autism spectrum. And then the more I met people on the spectrum, the more comfortable I was. And now it seems shocking to me that people have this thought, wondering if somebody on the spectrum is capable of fill in the blank, right? Because I know so many people on the spectrum, and I know it's different for all people. But for you to be on a set where people have already had that experience, where it's already been demystified, it had to have been just that much more fun for you to be there because you didn't have to go over that hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And it was really cool having him on there, as he took really good care of me and was able to like really understand me and go, predict what I need and stuff, because he's been in my position. I mean, not the same exact one. Very helpful.
We're talking a little bit in the chat, and I'm gonna go ahead and because we were talking about later on having your sister join us.
Yes.
On the show, and we very much I misunderstood and thought you guys were in the same location. I don't know why it didn't occur to me that you're probably sheltering in different places. So if you want to take a second, and not where anybody else can see, but in the chat here, if you would give the email address to our producer, he will email the link to your sister so that she can get on with us. Oh, she's already there. He's already taken care of it. Traven is so on top of it. So wonderful. We'll have her join in just a few minutes. So I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about Everything's Gonna Be Okay. Because this show, Lillian, this show, it has turned into like our favorite thing. But I don't know if you heard me say that, Traven loves it too, but we watch it and we watch like this. Do you find people saying that I watch and I go, I can't look. Oh my gosh, over and over and over. It's just so shocking, but it's so hilarious. Do you have other viewers that are telling you that they find themselves like having to like cover their faces and cover their eyes because they're like, oh my gosh, that's happening? Or am I the only person?
I feel it's more the parent side because
Are you saying we're
thinking of
fuddy-duddies,
thinking of
Lillian?
your children in that situation is very different than thinking of yourself in that situation, right?
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're right. I suddenly feel
Feedback from the
very old.
individuals on the spectrum has been like, I can't believe that you're doing this. Like, it's showing we're capable of these things. It's like, I'm just really happy that it's out there and we're, you're not handling us with kid gloves and we're
Yeah.
not just the comic relief. Like, we are characters, we have stories, and we have capabilities to handle those stories.
Yeah, and the stories are varied and different, and there's a lot of discussion about sex on the show. That's one of the things that I find myself going, oh my gosh. But it is by no means the only thing. It seems like everything is on the table, and the things that the teenagers say to each other. Even there was the one scene when you guys are all there, and the mother from Australia is on the big screen and having a conversation with you guys. And I had to pick myself up off the floor because I kept falling off the sofa. I was laughing and screaming and jumping up and down and going, oh my goodness. Right. I mean, it's hard to watch and not, it feels like an interactive experience that, you find yourself going, oh no, or I can't believe they just said that. It's like my favorite guilty pleasure right now. So it is available. The show is for Freeform, and it's on Freeform, but it's also available. The whole of season 1 is available on Hulu. Please tell me that you guys have been picked up for season 2.
We haven't been informed yet. We're still waiting.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm sorry, that's unacceptable. Who do I have to call? You can't leave me here.
I know, we're all just like sitting here going, tell us.
No, did you hear me say at the beginning? I want to be in that house right now to see how they're dealing with seclusion. I want to see how your character is dealing with your relationship, long distance, and not being able to be there. I want to see this. I can't stand it. I find myself thinking about it. This is crazy. So we have to, hey, Freeform, this is Shannon. Come on already. Greenlight season 2. Now, for people who aren't watching, tell them a little bit about Drea and what her deal is.
Okay, so Drea she's 17 in high school. She and Matilda are seniors. She comes in episode 2, and I think her entrance is absolutely like the best scene ever. It's a great introduction. She just says like whatever on her mind. There's no filter, and it's all quirky, crazy. And yeah, she is the person who comes in and goes, Matilda, whoa, what are you doing now? And she really has Matilda's back, and she's really her like close friend in this trio of friendship. And while Matilda goes off on her crazy adventures, she's just going, oh, I just love her.
I just love, the thing I love about Drea is that she is the embodiment of that honesty.
Yeah.
That she says what she's thinking, even if it's, because so often people are like, well, I didn't want to tell the truth and hurt somebody's feelings. I think what's often people misunderstand that for folks on the spectrum, they're not looking to hurt anybody's feelings, and they care about other people's feelings, but they're going to tell the truth because they feel it's the right thing to do. And I just love that Drea is so true to herself always. Even when somebody is trying to tell her, well, you need to be this way for me, she manages to stand up for herself and speak up for herself and say, that's not really me. This is what I'm comfortable with. I just find her such a delightful breath of fresh air. I don't want to spoil for people who haven't watched, but your character falls in love.
Yeah.
We won't say with who, but it's fabulous. And there is a moment that is so divine to me where your character, says the big, I love you, and the way you express it as an actress and what happens. I'd love to know, like, how much of that was scripted and how much of that did you add? Like, it's when things are really good, like, it's impossible, you don't think about it till afterwards, but I want to know, did Josh write it that way? How much input did you have? It's just one of the most delightful moments I've seen on television in my life.
Okay, so for the consulting, it's blurred how much I had input and how much was already in his head, because there was a lot of it. We had many conversations with each other where I never saw the script. It was just him asking questions, me giving feedback, me talking about what I wanted to see, and the things I didn't like about other shows. And like one of my main things I asked is, I want stimming to just be accepted. I want stimming to be beautiful. I want it to come out in very positive moments and not just negative moments. And so that's something that's seen throughout it. And then that I love you scene where those such intense moments come out, it was put in there, and it was so the chew necklace that Drea has, that was included because of me. I had a meeting with him and some of the other writers, and they asked questions about it, and then the next day I got the script and it was included in there. And then working in the service dog, in that scene.
Is that Luke?
That day, we were discussing, like, it was just stimming, and then he's like, we don't have a lot of you actually using Duke in the series. Let's just put it in this scene and see if it works. If not, we'll cut it. And then it ended up just flowing so beautifully, having all of those aspects together. But yeah, most of it was written in the script at the table read.
And for people who don't know, the service dog that's on the show is your actual service dog. Is that him that we're hearing right there? That we heard.
That's actually my mom's dog.
Oh, it's not even. But is Luke there with you?
Yeah, Luke is here with me. He's just over here.
Okay,
Luke,
well,
let's see if we can get him on screen. I don't know if we can.
Hey, Luke. He was in our studio just like a month ago. There he is. Hello, Luke. You're so beautiful. And he is so good-mannered. He is just a charmer. He is. But he's on the show playing the role of, his name is Luke, but he's on the show playing Duke. And he is delightful on the show as well. We're just thrilled to see him there. Now, you had done a little bit of acting before this, is that correct?
I've done like theater in like high school years back, but nothing like this. This was my
was it
my first thing. Yeah.
Was it your intention? Did you ever say to somebody, look, I want to be a working actress? Was that what your goal was, or you literally
it was never a plan of mine. I mean, I always thought it might be a cool thing to do, but it was never initiated as a plan. It was never like a big dream of mine. I just enjoyed learning and hanging out with my friends during it, and I had fun doing it in high school. But no, my plan was either to go into some sort of biology field, and then I ended up in school going for a teacher's certificate to hopefully work in like elementary school, preschool, and then maybe work my way up to eventually be a biology teacher. But like school is really hard for me. So I didn't know if I could make it to that level. And yeah, I was in college at the time. I was taking one class for my teaching degree, and the audition came up for Matilda, and I went for it. And I was like, why not?
And ended up with the role of Drea.
But so now
now has this all changed for you? Now is it your intention to be an actress for the rest of your life? Or you, what do you think?
I'm gonna ride this ride as long as I can. I
Yeah.
don't know if this will be the rest of my life, but it's definitely something I'm pursuing. I have an agent and a manager now, and I'm learning about the industry and how to audition and do all that. And I've gone on a couple, and so I got NCIS. And yeah, hopefully this continues. But in the meantime, I do autism most days and then audition whenever I get a chance.
Well, great segue. Let's talk a little bit about autism, and you tell me when you want your sister to come in.
Yeah, that might be part of the conversation about
Okay,
bring her
so
on.
Chloe, Traven, can we have Chloe join us? And maybe if you wouldn't mind, Lillian, would you introduce your sister to us?
Okay, so I have a twin sister. Her name is Chloe. Together, along with my mom, we founded a nonprofit called Autism that supports adults on the spectrum. Hello, Chloe.
Hi, Chloe. I sort of met you a couple of weeks ago at the tweet event, but I don't think I actually I don't think we had a big long conversation, and I didn't realize is that your dog that was there that night?
Yeah.
And what is your dog's name?
Benji.
Benji, I had a longer conversation with Benji, but so thrilled that you're here. And Chloe, am I right that you also work as your sister's assistant on set? Is that true?
Yeah, well, actually, I was Luke's assistant.
Ah.
Yeah.
I love that Luke has an assistant. I absolutely love that. So what kinds of things were you doing on set?
So I was making sure that Luke was taken care of, that he ate his meals at the right time, that he went to the bathroom when every few hours. So he has a pretty regular schedule. So I would make sure that all that was taken care of, so that Lillian didn't have to worry about that. She could just focus on her job. And then she didn't have to like stop everything if Luke was in a scene and be like, hey, we all need to stop so my dog could do something. So I did that so she didn't feel like she was getting in trouble. And so yeah, and then I also would, if she needed food or anything, I would run and grab her food. So what I like to do is she had like her favorite breakfast kind of stuff. So I would grab like her favorite donut if they had donuts out, and I would and she would go straight to like hair and makeup, and I would bring food to that trailer, and I would put food in her dressing room and water and stuff so that she had whatever she needed wherever she went, so that she didn't have to worry about all that kind of stuff while she was memorizing lines and running around doing whatever she needed to do.
And as I recall, when you were on the show before, Lillian, you said that this was really essential for you, that you could not have been free to do what you did on the show had your sister not been helping you. But I can't imagine, I mean, you're both young, talented women, and to see your sister, I mean, it's wonderful seeing your sister getting to shine like that.
Yeah.
But to be her assistant, and sometimes when it's all about her and you're the person to get the water, was it ever, did you guys ever have disagreements about it? Did you ever feel like you were on the back burner, or were you just okay with it, Chloe?
No, I was so happy for her. I mean, honestly, I was just happy to be there because I love film, and I just like was grateful to be on set when I really didn't have much of a reason to be there besides supporting her. And like I've seen her for years. She's been acting since I can remember, like since she could talk. Like she was on stage, maybe even before that. And she never got a huge part, and I was always like, oh my god, she's beyond talented, like she could be getting Academy Awards, she's like at this higher level. And like I'm like, am I going crazy because no one else saw this? And then she auditions and gets
the a part written for her on a show, and I'm like, okay, someone else at least sees this talent, you know. And so I was like so happy for her, and seeing her validated in the way like everyone was validating her on this set that like I've never seen before. It was just incredible to see that.
Well, I gotta say, what a remarkable sister you are. And Lillian, how lucky are you for both of you, how lucky are both of you to have each other? What a wonderful thing. I'm impressed that two sisters could be so wonderful. I gotta say, it just from like meeting the members of the cast that I have, it seems like it's probably a very fun set to be on. Is that true from both of you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's very goofy, silly. We all have a great time. I think Kayla is the most serious one on set. That she's very particular, and like we all respect that she's got to be focused, got to do things in her way. But for the most part, it's a very goofy, fun set, and we're all messing around and having a great time.
Well, and Josh Thomas, I mean, how brilliant and talented is he? The if we're seeing just a sliver of what goes on in his head, he's got to be one of the funniest people I've ever seen. Is he very focused on the set too, or is he just hilarious fun?
So he wears every hat. So he, producer, writer, star. He is just chaotic, running everywhere, trying to do everything at the same time. So while he does have his goofy silliness, he's very much just everywhere all the time, and you're like. But yes, he keeps it fun.
I remember my first day on set. He was running literally around the entire set. So I was watching Lillian do one of the scenes in the classroom, and Josh came running by in heels, and then came running by a second time like 5 minutes later in tennis shoes. And I was like, why did he change his shoes? What's going on? I found out later that the heels was something he was going to wear on the show that he needed to break in.
Yeah.
I think it was in the a scene where he danced. So he was literally running around set with the headset on, listening to the scene while breaking in his shoes. And he would run. The reason he was running past me was he was going to set to tell someone some note about the acting or directing.
I can't even imagine because the show is so hilarious. I remember the scene where he was dancing in the heels. Too much fun. A couple of people have written in and said some things. Donna wants you to know that it's so cool to see stimming accepted, Lillian, because I know how important that was to you. And she says echolalia too. And then Heather says it's to both of you. It's incredible to see how much you've both grown as people since taking on this role. So truly wonderful. And Heather, thank you for writing that in. Probably somebody who must know you both. So tell us about Autism. We were going to talk about that.
So Chloe, is this somewhere you want to?
Well, Autism started because after high school, we couldn't really find any programs that or services that were really working for us, and or that even existed. So we started just talking about like all the things that we wish existed. And I remember all these people in our town, when they would get a diagnosis, or their kid would get a diagnosis, we were the go-to people, like, what do we do now? And so we started to go like, why are we waiting for someone else to create this? Why don't we? And so we started, that's sort of how Autism started. And we were pretty much doing it before we made it an official company. And so some of the things I wanted was like just someone older or further along in their autism journey that I could talk to about the things I was going to. So we started mentorships. We started a life map program where you meet with someone who helps you break down your goals into manageable achievements once a week. We started support groups and social activities, and just all
Sounds
these,
amazing.
yeah.
Where can people go to find out more information?
Autism.com.
Okay. And then is it just, can people only participate in your community, or is it something people can participate with from a distance?
Well, right now it's worldwide because everything's online right now. We're not doing anything in person, but we do in-house as well normally. But right now, and also everything all the way through May, I believe, is free right now. If you wanted to try out any of our services for the next month or two and see if you like it.
Okay, cool. We didn't really talk about this in the beginning because I sort of feel like it, I don't know whether it's anecdotal or not, but I had the opportunity to talk to Lillian before on the show, but not with you, Chloe. So people are asking questions on, in the chat and online and on our live feature about. So Lillian, I always hate to ask people to disclose what their diagnosis is, and I'm not going to ask you guys, but if you choose to, I guess I could say that if you choose to talk about how you identify yourself, they're asking how you guys each identify yourselves.
Oh, so we're very open about this, that autistic, 100% autistic, diagnosed at the age of 16.
Yeah, we were diagnosed at the same time. So,
and are you the only two kids in your family, or do you have brothers and sisters?
We have another sister.
Okay. And, obviously we're not going to ask her, she's not here to identify herself, but I would imagine that how you are, even though you're twins and you both have this diagnosis, I would imagine that you are still very much your very own people, and that you have very different issues and needs and concerns. Is that true, or are there things that you guys have very much in common?
Yeah, we're very, very different people.
We're almost
very,
opposite.
very different needs.
Are you willing to talk about that a little bit? Like what are the things that are particularly of interest to you, Lillian? What are the things that you struggle with, maybe?
Oh, yeah. So I love rules and logic and everything fitting in their perfect box. And when it doesn't, like, my mind breaks down and I have like huge trouble comprehending, and all I want to do is solve it. And usually when that case happens, if there are gray areas in life, there isn't a solution, and that just, I can't handle that. That's a huge problem. Where Chloe seems to just live in the gray area a lot of times.
Is that true, Chloe?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I'm cool with not having answers to everything. I think it's even kind of cool to like that.
So I gotta say, in this
possibilities,
this COVID isolation, which is driving a lot of people bonkers because we want answers and people want to know, when is it going to end? How are you both coping with this?
I think for the most part, I'm doing pretty well. I have a friend staying with me who normally lives alone, so she has to come stay with me during this time, and she's keeping me sane. But recently, I've just gotten used to hanging out with friends, which is a very new thing for me, and I miss that. And so this is a new feeling I'm dealing with.
Have you tried hanging out like in this format on a Zoom chat?
Yeah, I don't like it so much.
It's weird. It's there's like a lag, and I always feel like I'm interrupting people, but it's better than nothing, but it's not the same.
Right.
Not the same. And Lillian, how about for you?
I've been doing pretty well. I've been just mostly doing work, been very busy, so I haven't had much time to think about it. I know at the beginning I dove in and did like tons of research on it, but now I just feel like that just drives me crazy and it's not a good idea to do that. So like I stay away from like the news and information, and I'm just like, is it over yet? Just tell me that. I don't
Yeah.
need to know anything else.
I think a lot of us are that way, but I'm curious, what kind of work are you doing? Is it schoolwork?
No, I'm not in school right now. Because I have a job and hopefully the acting continues, so I don't the teaching. I might go back to that eventually. I don't know. But it's autism, so it was a lot of the things converting it to online was me doing lots of research on what programs are out there and figuring out how to make it work.
Man, it's what everybody's doing right now.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm reading what somebody is saying. Somebody says, thank you for sharing gray. How about light blue or Chloe's own rainbow? Instead of saying that she's hanging out in the gray, that she's hanging out in her own rainbow. I like that. Okay. Okay, they're asking about twin. It seems so hard to find programs for adults in general. I struggle to find support in adult medical care, both for my autism and the set of birth defects I was born with. But part of that is both conditions are studied a lot in kids, even though they are lifelong conditions. So, but the part about, you know, finding programs for adults in general, that's part of what you guys are solving with autism, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
So what kinds of things are available right now through autism
Okay,
in this
so
COVID isolation?
so we have a life map program, which is an individualized coaching, where the client has some sort of goal, whatever it is, and we help them plan and figure out how to meet that said goal, with whatever executive functioning they need help with.
And again, they would go to ourtism.com
Yeah,
if they want to do that.
autism.com.
And is it you guys doing the coaching or is it somebody else?
The two of us don't do coaching. We do have someone on the spectrum that does coaching, as well as a couple people off the spectrum. And it would be based on like your needs and your wants and who you want to work with.
Wonderful.
And then there's mentorship, which is less formal and could be more emotion based. And it's you match with someone who's a little above you and has been through what you've been through. So if you're in high school, you can match with someone just out of high school and talk about what you're going through. And the mentor will be someone who's experienced what you've experienced and can help you through whatever situation that is. If it's you're looking for a job, as someone who just got a job, we're hoping to get more people involved in that. But
I love that.
It seems like
I love that.
it was something I really wanted growing up, because it felt like everyone I met was lower because I was in programs that were that way. And then someone who's above me was usually neurotypical. And I wanted someone who's like just right at that level that could explain to me. Like,
what a very helpful thing.
You know?
I love it. And again, people can go to ourtism, OURtism.com. Chad writes in and says, I think the dogs are having the hardest time. Do you think that's true? Are the dogs having a harder time than you guys?
Yeah. As service dogs, they're used to being out in the world like everyone else. So they're just so antsy and really want to be working again.
Are you guys able, where you live, to take them for walks and be safe? Yeah.
A little bit, but right now there's just a lot of people walking.
Yeah.
Around our street seems to be a main street because the trail's closed, so they use our street as the trail.
Yeah, I have a big dog that's a rescue dog, and she needs exercise. She needs to be walked. And in the beginning, it was great because nobody was out on the streets, but now it's like, it's crazy how many people are out, and she's not good with that. She loses her mind. She turns into Cujo. They also wanted me to say to you that they said, love you both, really beautiful. You guys are really beautiful, and you are. Unbelievably, we've finished the hour, and it's such a bummer, but I hope that people will visit Autism, OURTISM.com, and see all the things that you guys have that are available
We have
and
a lot of
participate with
things.
you. What's that, Lillian?
Yeah, we have a lot of things out there, so please look us up. There's probably something for you.
And definitely go and check out the entire first season of Everything's Gonna Be Okay. And we need to start a letter writing campaign or something. I know that everything is a little in flux right now, but we are going to return to doing production, and we need to see season 2 of Everything's Gonna Be Okay. I can't live without it, so we're not allowing that to happen. It's they have to do it. I don't care who I have to call. If I have to go lay in the road with a mask on my face, but they need to do a season 2. I need this. We all do. And for those of you who haven't watched it, you need to go watch it to see why. And what is the name of the episode on NCIS? So if they missed it, they can go and watch it on demand. Lillian.
Relentless, episode 15, I believe.
All right. I'm very squeamish and have a hard time watching those shows, but I'm going to pledge to you that I'm going to go watch your episode. But NCIS tends to give me nightmares. Like I'm one of those.
It's more emotion based. It's
okay.
It's a cute story.
All right, I'm gonna go watch it. So ladies, I thank you so much for being here with us, and we're gonna look forward to hearing more. And Chloe, thank you so much for joining us. All right, thanks, and give my love to the dogs too. Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and it's Monday. It's Monday, and it's going to be interesting. So, man, have we got a big week for you this week. And can I be honest? We've booked out next week too, so we are finishing April strong, and it's just, it's craziness. Off the chain. It's off the chain. Is that even a thing anymore? Was that ever a thing? Off the chain. I'm Shannon Penrod, and I'm thrilled we're coming to you live from my house. I know you're so used to this by now. It's not even shocking or interesting anymore. But we are here, and we are going to keep on keeping on as long as there is internet. We are going to be coming to you live, and we're coming to you live Monday through Friday now. Previously we were live some of those days, and we pre-recorded some of those days because it was what was more convenient for our guests. And now we're just live. Now we're just live, and that's how it is. And that's how it's, I guess that's how it's going to be. Occasionally, I guess we're running into people who are so busy that they're occupado. I mean, look, I'm occupado at this period of time every day. So I guess it's possible that we might pre-tape something in the future, but right now we're just live. And what's wonderful about that is that it's a great way to interact. Some of you are watching us recorded because you are busy during this time, and that's okay too. Which reminds me that we should probably show you all the myriads of ways that you can connect with us, all the different ways that you can be watching us. So Traven will get ready to show that to you. And while he does that, let me remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. And when you go there, lots of things to do and check out. There's a chat at the bottom of the page. There's all kinds of videos and playlists that you can access. I'm just listening to the neighbor's dog, and the birds have chosen this moment to lose their minds completely. I hope you're hearing it, because I hope you're treated to what I'm hearing. So if you look on the one column here, it shows you all the ways that you can watch us live, right? Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube. And at the bottom, you see autism-live.com. We're live on all of those places right now. And we're live there Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. But then the show is recorded, and it's available still on all of those places recorded, but we podcast it to the other column. Over there, you see iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Deezer. And wherever you go to find us, you will find us for free. That's a very important thing to us, that we want to be a resource for you. That's kind of the mission one. It's not kind of, that is mission one here. We want to provide you with information and inspiration. And by the way, when we say you, we are talking to the larger autism community. I know that sometimes there's like some controversy about that, but because everything about autism, what the phrase is, nothing about us without us, right? And I want you to know that we firmly believe in that here at Autism Live, and we try very hard whenever possible to, like, today's show, we have a wonderful self-advocate on the show. But we also are trying to provide information and inspiration to that larger autism community, which at the core are individuals who are on the autism spectrum, of course, right? But then we also include everyone who loves those individuals. That's where we're coming from. And we want to provide resources to all of those people as well. Because no one gets there by themselves, right? And we know that when we come together as one large autism community, there's going to be lots of disagreement first, right? Like nobody's going to pretend that we're all going to agree, because it's not one size fits all. But there are a couple of things that we all do agree upon, and that's that individuals with autism deserve respect, and that they have dignity that should be preserved, and that they have rights, of course, civil rights, and we should all be fighting for that. And they have the right to work, and they have the right to support. So I do think that we all agree on that, and that we can come together on that. And we want to provide information and inspiration towards that. So that's what we're doing here at Autism Live. And we may always do it perfectly. And I know I get a fair amount of criticism, and please know that I take it all in, and that we adjust and try to, but again, it is not a community where it's one size fits all. So if you are seeing something on the show that you're like, well, I would rather see this, write in, tell me. There was a period of time when people were saying to me, you're featuring too many stories about kids. And so we started doing more about teens and adults, and so on and so forth. I'm going to sneeze. It's terrible. Falling apart here. But I'm thrilled to be here with you. And which brings me to my next thing. We have wonderful experts that are here on the show. And have I got some great guests for you today? Have I got some great guests for you this week? Oh my goodness. But I want to remind you that while we have experts that are here on the show, I'm not one of them. I'm not an expert in autism. I'm not an expert in very much at all. So, but I'm a former teacher, and I am a very proud mother of an individual who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. So, and I've been covering autism for over 10 years in this kind of a format, an interview experts kind of format. So, I do have an interest, a personal interest in this, and I have a personal interest in helping you, whoever you are, because you're part of that larger autism community if you're here. And I want to help you to figure out what it is that you need, or what it is that you want to do, or how to access the things that you want to do. That's why I'm here. But don't confuse me for an expert. I'm just not, I'm very opinionated. Let's be very honest. I'm supposed to, every time we do a live show, it's supposed to be my prompt that I'm supposed to put lotion on my hands. Are you guys all washing your hands like crazy people? And then your hands get dried and cracked. And so I'm trying to prompt myself. That was not a commercial for that particular brand, but I'm trying to remind myself to, because I'm washing my hands all the time, but then you got to put the lotion on, or you get 98-year-old hands, which I've had. Okay, so having said all of that, it's time, my friends, for us to do what I fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani are the experts talking about, and how can this term help us? Because my whole thing is, if it can save you 5 minutes and $5, then it's worthwhile, right? But if not, and sometimes the jargon is just a pain in your rear end. So we take it on a little bit at a time. We give you the actual definition. We make fun of the actual definition, because what else can you do with it? And then we give you a working definition, which the BCBAs sometimes break out into hives when they hear my working definition, but you got to start somewhere, right? Okay, so this is a term that actually got brought up the other day by Dr. Graham Pichet, but it was in the hopper to be discussed today. So let's go for it. Joint attention. No, this is not when your joints get old and creaky, pick me, right? That's not what this is about. So Traven, let's take a look at what our actual definition is for joint attention. I think it's stuck, so it's not going to go. There it is. Joint attention, the process by which one alerts another to stimulus via nonverbal means, such as gazing or pointing. Yeah, I think somebody sits up late at night and goes, how many words can I put in there to make it harder for you to understand this? It's like isolating people, right? It's like if I'm going to make you have to think this through. I hate that method of education. It's so exclusionary, right? Let's be inclusive. Let's move on to our working definition of joint attention. Because joint attention is a really important thing. It's the ability to share attention with another person toward an object, person, or event. All right. It still is like very complicated. Like, I don't know what that means, right? But I always do the symbol of a triangle because that's what we're trying to create. And by the way, we're trying to create this with very young babies. And this is, as we heard from Dr. Grampiche the other day, this is the building block upon which all social skills are piled on top. So if we don't have that triangle of attention, we will see that some things will happen, but other things will fall apart. And this is what I was talking about the other day, is that I call it the Disneyland factor. Because whenever I go to Disneyland, and I live in Southern California, so I love to go to Disneyland, I tend to people watch because I'm not on the rides with my husband and my son because I get sick on the tram. Yes, I am that level of puppy. But so I will watch, and there'll be a mom, for instance, on the tram. She'll be sitting there with her small child who might be 2, right? And at a certain point, mom looks over and she sees Goofy, right? And mom points to Goofy, or mom looks at Goofy. And then the first thing that mom does is she checks back in with the 2-year-old and makes some sort of a face like, oh, it's Goofy, right? And so mom looks at Goofy. This is the triangle, right? Mom looks at Goofy, looks at the child, and is expressing emotion with her face, right? Not even necessarily saying anything. And now the child looks at mom and then decides to go back and look to see what it was that mom was looking at that made her go, oh, right? And now the child looks and sees Goofy, but the child who's excited to see Goofy checks in with mom and is like, oh, it's Goofy. Nobody's really said anything, but there is this triangle of attention that's going like crazy around that triangle. What we see with kids on the autism spectrum is that sometimes that triangle is not reinforcing to them. That, they might be excited to see Goofy, but they may not be excited to check, or may not even know that it could be exciting to check in with mom. Because if you are not oriented to faces to begin with, then why would you do that? Why would that be exciting? You wouldn't even show up for the interaction that comes next, which is the facial expression, which has an implication, right? Now, for neurotypical kids, and Trayvon, you can go ahead and put it back on me. For neurotypical kids, they're oriented towards their parents' faces. It's one of the first things that they do. So they're little, and they're in the little bouncy seat or whatever. And we're told, talk to them. And they orient to us, and we tell them, or we sing or we do whatever. And that's supposed to be reinforcing to them. But for our kids on the spectrum, when faces aren't really the thing for them, and there's lots of reason to believe why it isn't for them, that visually they're not seeing necessarily the same thing that we see when we see faces, and that eyes aren't necessarily the reinforcing thing to them. And for some people, it's that, that it looks different, like Picasso different. But for other kids, we've heard lots of adults on the autism spectrum tell us that it isn't that eye contact isn't reinforcing, it's that it's so overwhelming. And I remember thinking that when my son was a baby, before there was any other sign of autism, that, he could make eye contact with me, but it was so like intense that he couldn't do anything else while he was doing that. So if he was, bouncing and playing and doing whatever in his little bouncy seat, and then I would make eye contact with him and he would just freeze, and he would be total eye contact, but he couldn't do anything else. He would nurse, but if I made eye contact, and you're supposed to make eye contact during nursing, he would freeze and he wouldn't feed, right? So for some people, it's not that it's reinforcing, it's intense, right? So, and I just want to say hi to Maria and welcome. We welcome grandparents. Grandparents are always a great resource here. We're talking about joint attention and how important it is to develop joint attention no matter how old the person is, so that eventually you look at something, you look at them, they look at you, they look at the thing, and they look back at you, and information is exchanged even though we're not saying anything. And it might be like, oh, I don't know what that is, right? Think of all the faces that you make that communicate things. And by the way, for neurotypical kids, this is where some of their love of things comes and some of their fear of things comes. So if mom looks and sees a dog and goes, and then looks at the child and the child looks at mom and they're like, that's not a good face. And they look and they see the dog. Now the child learns to be afraid of dogs, which, may or may not be a good thing, right? So, but it also, when they pick up on these things, they see what mom loves. Oh, mom loves Goofy. Now the child likes Goofy, right? So when that is missing, when that joint attention thing is not happening, it means that sometimes our kids don't grow to be afraid of things that they should be afraid of, like the hot stove, right? They're just missing that information because they didn't get it in this little nonverbal triangle of attention. So there you go. There's joint attention. If you are sitting there and you're like, wait a second, my 14-year-old doesn't do this, there are lessons that you can do to build joint attention and to make it reinforcing to the person. And remember, if it's not there, you don't have the basic structure to build social skills on. So joint attention, really important. If you're looking for lessons for joint attention, go to skillsforautism.com and look up joint attention because it's there. Okay, now we always have a question of the day for you, and I don't want to get behind here because we've got Bonnie Yates coming up. Okay, this is the question that I really wanted to ask you guys on Friday, and I want to spend like a whole show talking about this, but how are you getting your groceries during COVID-19? And I hope that you guys will write in because I'm learning it's one of the first things I'm asking people in life when I'm talking to them on the phone. I go, so what are you doing? How are you getting your groceries during COVID-19? And I'm fascinated by the wide array of choices that people are making. And, there are people who are still going to the store. There are people like us that we're only ordering online, and we've tried like 5 different ways to do it. And I have different feelings about each one of them, which I'll share at some point. But I want to know, what are you guys doing? What has been working for you? What isn't working for you? Excuse me. Now I'm going to have the burps and the hiccups. So I'd love to know, how are you getting your groceries during COVID-19? Okay, moving on. We always have a topic of the week. And our topic for this entire week, which we're very excited about, is making lemonade. Look, we've all gotten some lemons through this thing, right? There's like definitely some stuff that has gone, right? That, stuff that you had planned or that you were going to do. Like I was supposed to be just getting back from New York City today. And yeah, I'm a little bummed that we didn't get to go to New York City, but there are other things that we've been able to do as a result of being here that we would never have had the opportunity to do. So we're all making choices to make lemonade, right? Because when life hands you lemons, that's the thing to do. So I'm wanting to hear from you guys. How are you making lemonade? What are you doing with this time? I'm trying to get the workout piece together. Some days are better than others, but I'm working out significantly more than I was 5 weeks ago. So like 1,000% more, because there was 0 happening before. So my doctor, when I see my doctor again, which I hope is never, will be so thrilled. What are you doing to make lemonade? How are you making the most of this difficult situation? We really want to hear from you. Okay, so, and then I don't know if you have put it on this, Traven, about the activity of the week. I don't know what's next. I don't know if that's on here or if that's all on me. I'm not sure. But so go to the next slide. Yeah, okay, so here are the people that we have on the show this morning. We are gonna have Bonnie Yates with us. She's gonna continue to answer questions from you guys about things related to special education in school, because I know the questions are all of a certain ilk that seems overwhelmingly that nobody is thrilled with what the school is doing during this COVID emergency. We're gonna hear from Bonnie about that. And then a little bit later on the show, we're welcoming for the first time as a guest on the show, although Cassidy has been with us in spirit and in question many times before, but Cassidy Hooper is going to be joining us. She's an amazing young woman. She is an autism self-advocate, and she's got a show of her own now, and we're going to talk to her about what that is. And she's tearing it up with her show. I'm telling you, these young up and coming people are like, she's amazing. So I'm going to be excited for the first time ever to talk to Cassidy in real life. We've emailed many times, but I'm excited that I'll have an opportunity to talk to her. Now, we always have an activity for you, but of course I can't remember what I sent you, Traven. I'm hopeless. But I want you to know this. I just keep thinking about, I have friends that will say to me, I'm just not creative like you are. Or I'm just not, I'm not a former teacher, Shannon, so I don't know what to do. I don't know how to teach these things. I don't know the things that you know. And that's always fascinating to me because it never occurs to me because of my background. I guess there's like things that I know how to play with kids that other people just never got a background in. And I don't want you to feel less than. I want you to be keyed into the things and get the stream of, the things that I have learned over the years that are fun to do with kiddos. So what we did is we have a Pinterest page on Pinterest. Autism, you go to pinterest.com and you are going to have to sign up for a free account. You're going to thank me later because you may have the time to play with it, and Pinterest is fun. No matter what you're into, you can find something to be excited about on Pinterest. But you can look at other people's boards. And Autism Live has a board. And you can go and see within the board, we have other categories of boards. It's kind of like having a magazine and being able to go to the chapters in the magazine and going, well, I just want to read the article about this, right? And then getting there, and there's not just one article, there's 52 articles, right? Or however many articles. So we've always had a Pinterest page on Autism Live, and we try to add stuff to it. But what I've been doing is making categories that start with at home, and then something else. And I add 5 a week. So 5 categories. So there's a bunch of stuff there now. Okay, so one of the categories that I added for you this week is fine motor activities. It's actually called fine motor fun. So if you've got a kiddo and you're having trouble with handwriting, or you're getting ready for handwriting, you're not yet at handwriting, or their handwriting is horrible, and you're like, I just can't, I've tried the worksheets, I've done the handwriting without tears program, and it's just not working for me. So, so go and play some of these games that don't seem like they're pre-handwriting skills, but that's exactly what they are. There's a whole board of them. At home, fine motor fun on Pinterest. Go find Autism Live on Pinterest. There you are. And then you can look at all the other stuff we have there for you, because we have a lot of stuff. Okay. But it is 10:21, and I told Bonnie Yates we were going to be to her at 10:20. So I am a whole minute late. Let's bring Bonnie Yates in so that we can talk with her, because she is super fantabulous, awesome. And I'm told that she is there.
She is there.
She is there. Hey, Bonnie, how are you? Is your camera on? There
we go.
There you are. Well, there you are. Looking good as usual. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm getting a little, let's see.
Are you like needing to get out and about?
No, because I do that. I'm just like thinking about, like yesterday for the first time, somebody said 2022.
Yeah. I got to be honest with you, that I heard that on Friday, and that took the wind right out of my sails. Because as you know, I have a young son who's going to be a senior in the fall.
I do know.
And when somebody said 2022, and I was like, no, because he's in college by then. And it just, I don't know, it just took it all out of me for a good day.
Yeah. So I'm 24 hours behind where you are.
And I gotta say, it's a slow road back. It like really gives you pause.
Well, the thing that I'm kind of focusing on is like my husband at Cal Poly is, I don't think people realize how much the students have been affected by this
Yeah.
and what it means about their future. You know, I have a younger child that wants to like have a social life and date. I mean,
Yes.
I can do this. You know, that's my main issue is like, when do I get to see certain family members? But for younger people,
Yeah.
like being, you know, my parents' age and remembering the depression or something. So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing the show.
We're glad you're here too. And I sent you some questions, but it was really
No,
late.
I'm good. We can do
You,
them.
oh, you got them?
Yeah.
Okay. And of course I can always, okay. So let's start with talking about the Tollner Law Offices and the disclaimer.
All right. Well, the disclaimer is you can't use this program as a substitute for real legal advice because it's not specific to your child's issue. So if you have a legal problem and you write to us, we'll try to deal with it on the air in a general way, because a lot of times people are going through similar stuff and we take comfort in, you know, our strength as a body of people that are working with, you know, these issues. But I generally refer people to COPA, COPAA.net, if you need to talk to an attorney in your own state. Obviously, if you have a California problem, we're happy to talk to you about it. And actually, in the last couple of weeks, I've had a couple people reach out from the show, and it's great to talk to you, California people, and we've had good discussions. So I can be reached either via the website, Tollner Law Offices. You can just Google up the website. There's an intake form. You can fill it out, and it'll get you an intake in pretty short order within 48 hours. Or you can just call me, and I usually just give you the 310-245-1968 number. That's direct to me. So you don't have an excuse for not getting an answer to your specific question if you're in the state of California.
There you go.
In the larger scheme of things, you have some questions and we're going to answer them, but there's been all kinds of stuff coming down the pike about how Senate Bill 117 is working and how people's particular IEPs are being implemented, things like that. So just really quickly, I'm going to try to read if there's time. Let's see, can I do this? Can you still see me if I pull up a document?
I've got a document up, so let's see. You can share. You can actually share something.
I'm just gonna read it, is what I want.
Oh, okay.
Do. I had talked with Dr. Simon about this question of, well, it would help if I could spell and talk at the same time. This question of what to do with this time at home, how to use it productively, and how to get some meaningful information out of the process. And she sent me the following little email, which I believe I sent you, Shannon. If I didn't, you'll let me know. She said,
Okay.
have parents keep track of how long their child can work independently on a task that is assigned, e.g., how much support they really need. That's one. Two, kids who are performing better in this setting versus class can reflect issues of distractibility and setting, which can argue for a smaller, more organized classroom if needed. Download or order leveled books and see what child can read truly independently for leisure. Pick a variety of things of their interest and see what books they will actually read by themselves. This gives you an estimate of actual independent reading level. 4, can the child do any of the quote assigned unquote work on his own? This is the distance learning. How much support is needed by parent? How much is behavior interfering with independent work? How many prompts does parent have to sit with child to get child to do any work? So those are some things that are interesting because you're in the unique position now where the tables are turned and you actually have more information about your students' day-to-day functioning for the last 40 days or so than they do. So that's one thing that's coming up. Another thing that's coming up is people are asking questions about blocking or postponing graduation. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit at the end when we get through the questions if we have time.
Okay,
So
we're already running low on time, and I just want to quickly say that we've got a couple of questions that came in that aren't necessarily related to special education, but there's one question that I want to make sure that I tell this sister who is writing in. Is it a sister? Yes. She has a 65-year-old sister who is on the autism spectrum that moved in a year ago, and she's saying, "Is this show just for younger kids?" It is not. Stick with me. I'm going to cycle back to your question a little bit later on.
No,
Okay, so
and TLO is representing people of all ages in the regional center system. So, I mean, the main problem you have with regional center cases is that there's no attorney fee reimbursement, whereas under the IDEA cases there is. So, if we're running low on time, you can ask me whichever of the questions you want. And, you know, if people have stuff and we're not getting to it, I can make myself available later in the week.
okay, I'm going to start hitting the questions. So my son turns 21 in June, and we were scheduled to exit his school program, but he is being cheated of his last few months. Will he get an extension? Do you know?
Okay, so your son shouldn't be being exited from his school program at 21 unless he's graduating with a regular diploma. If he's graduating with a certificate of completion, he's supposed to be able to attend school under the IDEA until his 22nd birthday. So I need a little clarification in terms of what track he's on. What you're asking me, I think, and what people have been asking is what kind of a do-over do we get for this time period? And the answer is nobody knows yet. So you
Yeah.
might as well just err on the side of being a little bit proactive about it. And so, you know, you don't have to wait to discuss these issues with the district. It might be a very good idea to request a telephonic or Zoom IEP and discuss what's working well and what's working badly and where the student's goals said he would be by this time this year versus where he is. As far as graduation, I just want to say, in case people have that issue coming up, I want to just tell them specifically, graduation can be delayed, but what you have to make sure you do is file for due process and trigger stay put long before graduation rolls around. I wouldn't wait till the last week before because they may take the position that you've substantially completed all your classes and we're going to graduate you. So I'm doing a graduation case. I'm filing, I just got it yesterday. I'm filing it now. The effect of that will be that the stay put will be in effect for many months because we know we're going to be able to continue these hearing cases. And that gives us time to work out a deal on graduation. So for your question, it's similar, right?
Yeah.
You need to figure out a way to get some more time. And I would suggest you start with an IEP meeting. And if that doesn't resolve the problem promptly, then I think you're going to have to file for due process and you're going to have to address the question of what comp ed you're going to get. And there's no commitment, but there never really has been on comp ed. It's going to be on a case by case basis. And it's going to depend upon you showing what the missed educational opportunities were during this, you know, time from March 11th forward. So that's why the documenting is important. And that's why the process is important. Even if some of the rules are relaxed, it's still very important that people schedule their end of year IEP meetings and not wait until too late. So I think
Okay.
that would generally.
Great. I'm going to move on to the next question. If I stop doing the distance learning garbage my son's school is dishing, I just love how this mom words this, and start the K-12 homeschool program, which has a special ed teacher, can I get the school to reimburse me, and how do I do that?
Well, the answer is probably, but I can't guarantee that. But I'm guessing that the homeschool program isn't that expensive. If you're going to do that, treat it like a private placement and give them 10 business days, not days, 10 not calendar days, 10 business days, written notice that you're going to place them in this other program because the distance learning doesn't offer FAPE. And you're doing this because you don't want them to lose, you know, academic ground, and you are going to expect the district to reimburse you for this. But it's not that big of an ask, so I would think that that's a viable strategy. You might have to get it, but I think they'd settle with you at either a resolution session after you file the complaint or a mediation That'd be my guess.
Okay.
I don't think that are we ending? Because I can stop.
No. I'm going to hit you with another question.
Well, before you do, I want to
Okay.
say to people, this is not a one-size-fits-all situation. The squeaky wheels are still going to get the grease. There's still some grease to be had, so you want to be the squeaky wheel. Ask me another question.
Okay. Parent says, wits end here, have an IEP scheduled for Friday. My son is about to be 5, ASD, ADHD, has some language, gets a 40-hour program from CARD, which we have continued through some in-home and lots of telehealth. I don't know what will happen in the fall with school, but I want to CARD one-to-one in TK if we are going back to school. What do I need to know to get that? And the IEP is for this Friday, but they don't say which school district.
Yeah, I mean, I wish you had a little more time and a little more data, because I think that data could be analyzed. And if you've been doing academic work with the child and the child needs a one-to-one behavior facilitation in order to attend or to have the work broken down in smaller units and learn, those would be the arguments you would make for why. I mean, first you have to make the least restrictive environment argument, and that your child, absent any other factors, which I haven't heard, is entitled to go to a general ed TK, and that in order to be successful in that environment, he's going to need full-time NPA, ABA services. And you go through your data that you've collected from your home program work with your behaviorist, and you articulate the areas of need and why they require that level of support. And then that's the case you make at the IEP meeting. I will tell you guys that I have gotten, in many instances, settlements which allowed for NPA behaviorists to come into the classroom. I have almost never gotten them at an IEP meeting, probably 10 times in the last 25 years, but I have almost always gotten them through the mediation process. Last year, I did have an IEP where I got ABA services for the kindergarten year, but that's because the child had been in a private preschool with full-time ABA, and the preschool teacher spent a lot of time talking to the IEP team about how he could do this, but he needed the support, and it wasn't right to put him in a special day class. So you got to think about what you're doing immediately, and you also have to think about the fact that in terms of the longer game, you need to make a good showing at the IEP meeting, and then if that isn't successful, you can go to due process and you'll probably be able to settle the thing at a mediation.
Okay, I love that answer. And then one more question. My 5th grader had a one-to-one aide. Now with COVID madness, he is expected to learn from a lecture on a computer with no aid and no support. And she wrote WTF. Do I just stop? Do I call an IEP, or do I just let him fail, with many question marks?
I think she calls an IEP and she talks to them about what she needs, and she sees how far she can get, and then we reevaluate.
Okay. I think a lot of people, Bonnie, are feeling like, because it's like all the rules got changed. They don't feel empowered to do some of the things that they knew that they could do before, like saying, I need an IEP meeting because this isn't working.
Okay, well, so what I have to say about that is this is a Wild West situation, and you need to appeal to your inner artist and creative person. So, for example, I had a middle school principal in LAUSD who was jerking my client around and refusing to commit to an IEP date. So we filed a simple due process, and lo and behold, the principal surfaced and said, okay, we're going to do your IEP meeting. I mean, we could have a brief show discussing how people file for due process by themselves in California using prepared forms, because I think in some cases you may need to sort of get out of the IEP level of action and catapult your case into a status where people that are higher up in the special education division of your school district are going to be looking at the request. And it is not rocket science, and it's all doable online. So maybe that's something we should talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we've answered all the questions rapid fire. I'm so proud of us, proud of you, really. But so now we got 2 minutes, Bonnie. You had a bunch of things that you wanted to talk about. Is there anything in particular you want to talk about in 2 minutes?
Sure, why not? Well, let's start talking about due process. Let's 2 minutes about due process so we can see if people want more. Remember that the system was set up originally so that parents were supposed to be able to do all this themselves. And you can do this. You can go to the Office of Administrative Hearings website for the state of California. I don't know about other states. We've got an e-filing system where you can do all of this online. And there are forms at the Office of Administrative Hearings special education website for how to file for due process. And for those of you that have ever filed a regional center appeal, it can look that simple. It can be a 2-page submission that says, what is the nature of your problem and what is the resolution that you need to resolve this? And the trickiest part of completing that form is that OAH requires a proof of service showing that you served it on your school district. So you have to make sure that you file your complaint with a proof of service and you serve it upon your school district. So you'll be serving it on the school district and on the Office of Administrative Hearings, and that will be enough to get you a case number and a resolution session and probably a mediation, and you don't have to worry if your complaint isn't perfect. The whole point about this is to rest your case away from the sort of stalled IEP level of things and put you into a different echelon. So we could finish that next time we're on the air.
I think that sounds like a great idea. Because I think people are right now are wanting to be empowered with things that they can do, you know, and that's one of the things that you can do. And I know personally that I never actually had to get to the point where we filed for due process. I was 3 times in consideration for it. You know, people who watch the show know my story that I got filed against twice due process from the school district. But I can tell you that's, yes, very special. But I can tell you that good things happen in mediation. Mediation is a place where you get stuff done. And it's an opportunity where you're sitting there and you're able to like talk and there's a reasonable person there who's talking.
Can you confirm that it was a whole different group of people than the IEP level people that were sort of?
Totally different people.
Yeah.
The people who actually, you know, it's that Maya Angelou thing about never take a no from somebody who wasn't authorized to give you a yes. And when you get in the mediation room, you're in the room with the people who can give you the yes. And they're there with a reasonable person who does not have a dog in the fight, who just is like the reasonable person there. And I found that if I was reasonable, that person would say to the people on the other side of the table, listen to her, she's being reasonable. And that ended up helping me great big balls of fire. Yes, I'm a big fan of mediation. It's where good things happen.
Okay, well, and that's good. That's good for them to hear from you because you're a lay person having done this. That's right.
That's right. Anyway, Bonnie, tell us again where we can find you and Tollner Law offices.
You can probably find me in my kitchen, which is not a good thing.
I love it.
And sometimes when I'm down there, I'm actually cleaning. Not yeah, so Tollner Law offices. We have offices in San Jose, El Segundo, and Irvine. You can find us on the website, TOLLNER Law Offices, or you can reach out to 310-245-1968. Good questions, guys. We're going to
thank you so much.
Solving. You know.
Thank you, Bonnie. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
All right, take care. And bye-bye. And we're a little bit late coming to our next guest, which is the fabulous Cassidy Hooper. And while we're getting Cassidy in, I just want to address some things that you guys have written in. Love hearing from Carrie that she says lemonade. Just keep saying to myself, it could be worse. People say that they get their groceries doing drive-in pickups at Walmart, but there's Cassidy. Cassidy, welcome to Autism Live.
Hi, Shannon. Nice to be here.
It's so exciting to finally get to talk to you almost face-to-face, Cassidy, because you've been somebody that that I've considered a friend for many, many, many years, and thrilled to have you here with us. We were saying before that you are a person who considers yourself an autism self-advocate. But you host a show. Talk to us a little bit about what your show is about and where we can find it.
It's on a podcast called Anchor, and you can find it on Apple Podcasts as well. It's called Cassidy's Turner Syndrome and Asperger's Syndrome Chat, and I just talk about my experiences, and I talked to Dr. Tara Reagan. I'm actually of Autism Grown Up. I am the online community manager at Autism Grown Up, which is a nonprofit organization based in North Carolina. So we work in different states. The internet can do amazing things.
It can.
Yeah, and
Cassidy, I just want to cry because like this is the first time I'm ever getting to talk to you. And I don't know why it didn't occur to me that you have this gorgeous Southern accent.
oh, thank you.
So Cassidy, you mentioned Turner syndrome. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what Turner syndrome is?
Yeah, it's a genetic condition. It's a chromosomal abnormality that occurs only in females, and it comes along with a lot of health issues and short stature, and sometimes we have learning disabilities and stuff like that. So it's when you are missing the second X chromosome, or it's a partial deletion of the second X chromosome in females. So yeah, that's pretty much what Turner syndrome is.
And how rare is it? It's pretty rare, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty rare. Yeah.
So you know what that means? It means that you are extra special. You're extra unique, extra special, right? And so you talk about that, and you talk about being an adult with an autism diagnosis, the two together. Cassidy, what would you like for the rest of the world to know about being a young woman living with these two diagnoses? What do you wish we knew?
That you can live a happy and fulfilled life even despite your diagnosis. That you can live a happy, fulfilled life and do whatever you set your mind to. So yeah, that's what I want the world to know about it.
What a wonderful, wonderful example you are. So now, Cassidy, let's take a stroll down memory lane. How did you first find us at Autism Live?
I found it online. I'm a very big researcher on Google and on YouTube. So yeah, I'm very active online. So
I kind of remember, I think it was like in the first year that we were doing Autism Live, or it was the first or second year. And I remember that you wrote in a question and that we asked Dr. Grampiche the question. And I feel like we just have gotten to ride in the sidecar. You and I became friends on Facebook, and I watched you. Like I'm thinking you had to have been like what, 16 at that time?
Yeah, around 16.
Yeah, and but now you've gone on to do amazing things. You went to college.
Yeah.
And you've become an aunt in that amount of time.
Yeah.
And now you've got this wonderful job that you're doing, and you've got this fabulous podcast. So we can find the podcast on Anchor, but is there a specific time that we need to look for it, Cassidy? Where, or like, when do you do it?
Well, I publish it every Wednesday. I have a lot of autism self-advocates and professionals. I interviewed Dr. Mark Yeager of Team. He has an amazing organization here called Team, which stands for Together Enhancing Autism Awareness in Mississippi. And he has an awesome summer camp for children and adults with autism. And I've been twice, and I don't know about this year with the coronavirus going on, but it's supposed to be in June, but we don't know for sure. But yeah, he's awesome. And I interviewed Dr. Tara Reagan from Autism Grown Up, which I'm the online community manager of. And so, yeah, she's amazing too. She's really sweet. You should interview her.
I should. Anybody who's smart enough to hire you, Cassidy, I would love to have on the show. And talk, so you're the online manager. So is this something that's just in your local area, or can other people in other states access it?
Yeah, you can all over the world. It's a free online community. It's not on Facebook. It's on Mighty Networks, which is an app. And it's a safe space away from Facebook. It's a free community. It's you can find it at community.autismgrownup.com, and anyone can sign up for free. And yeah, it's for autistic adults, parents, family members, siblings, and grandparents, and stuff like that. Organizations, anybody who has an interest in serving autistic adults and helping autistic individuals transition into adulthood and help them navigate adulthood. So it's an amazing organization. Yeah.
We've got a lot of people who are writing in wonderful things about you. Tara has written and said, hey, Cassidy, we love her too at Autism Grown Up. She's the best. And I think that that's probably true. So apparently, Tara, we have to get you on the show. And people writing in and saying hi. And somebody who said, Cassidy, what an amazing woman. And I think we can all agree with that. So what is the name of your podcast?
Cassidy's Turner Syndrome and Asperger's Syndrome chat. I know it's long, but
it's all right. It says what it says what it is. My goodness, nobody's confused. It's not like you called it potholders and flowers, right? And then we're like, what is that about? It's perfect. It says what it is. So we would go to Anchor. Now, I've never been to Anchor. So is it just anchor.com and then we look for Cassidy Hooper?
Yeah, you can download it on the app, download it on the Apple App Store, or it's anchor.fm.
Anchor.fm. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where we want to go to find the podcast, and you publish another one every Wednesday. So, and I'm telling you guys, she's going to put me out of business because she's fabulous host. No, I'm serious. And what a good thing. Please. That would be a thing I would love to see happen. So check out her podcast, but also I think everybody's going to want to go to that Autism Grown Up. So tell us again where we find that.
Community.autismgrownup.com.
So I want to know, we've only got like 2 minutes left, Cassidy, but I want to know, like, what are some things that you're doing as the community? It's community outreach. Is that your online outreach? What's your title? I don't remember. Okay.
Online community manager. I just help engage and facilitate the community and help Dr. Tara Regan brainstorm with ideas on how to make the community better. So yeah, that's pretty much my job.
You are awesome. And what a wonderful addition to their team you are. So one more time, where do they go to get to do that?
Community.autismgrownup.com.
Okay, so you guys get on there, because what a wonderful resource, and connect with Cassidy because she's a fabulous young woman going places. We're all so in awe of you, Cassidy. It has been my great pleasure to have watched you do some pretty amazing things over the years.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I enjoy talking to you.
I enjoy talking to you too. You're doing great. Is there anything else you want to tell the folks at home?
Not at the moment.
All right, but maybe we have to have you come back.
Yeah, just go to community.autismgrownup.com and connect with me there. I'm also on Facebook, Cassidy Hooper, and you can listen to my podcast on Anchor and Apple Podcasts, and I love to connect with you. So yeah,
Cassidy is the soul of persistence. Because we had talked about this, I don't know, months ago, about having you be on the show, and then I got a little distracted with this COVID sort of thing, and everything had to change, and how we did the show change. And we've had many people who talked about wanting to be on the show during April, but Cassidy was like, Shannon, and you very politely correctly would, bring, you would send another email and say, Shannon, we talked about this. Do you, and she stayed on me, which is why she's here today, because she was a professional. She did it appropriately and she was persistent, which is the hallmark of success, Cassidy. You're going to do very well.
Thank you so much.
All right, please, good, stay in touch with us and stay safe and healthy, okay?
Okay, thank you
All
so
right.
much. You too.
Take care.
Bye.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. Yes, we have not changed the opener. And yes, I was a different person and I dyed my hair and I was younger and thinner. And it happens. It just happens. In any case, I love the music in it. You guys can see me now that I sort of rock out to the music. And I love looking at the pictures of the kiddos because those kiddos have grown up and are doing so well. And we've had a couple of them on the show. We should have all of them at some point. But anyway, in any case, I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from my house. I know it's a concept you're unfamiliar with, but the truth of the matter is you guys are getting so used to seeing people come from their house and checking out the tchotchkes behind them. I know. I need to change my tchotchkes up to make it more exciting. But I'm thrilled to be here with you. First, I want to start by spreading some love. Guys, you're just doing so awesome. This COVID emergency, I know it's kicking everybody's keister on different days, right? And there are different things, like just when you think you have it all like on a level place and you go, okay, I might have this for 5 minutes, then, something new gets added into the mix, right? Or the time gets extended. But I got to say, while I had concerns for all of you, and I still do for our autism community, because there are extra things going on for you right now. And I know that, being cooped up in a place and especially not necessarily having access to all the resources that you normally have, it makes me worry for you. But I got to say, I knew that you guys would be rock stars at this because you've already had to do this in your life. You've already had to go, oh, okay, all the rules just changed and we got to do this in a different way. So you guys rose to that occasion and you're rising to this. And I just want to be here to help you. We all here at Autism Live want to help you to rise to that occasion. So we're going to be with you live for the next hour. We've got a really inspirational show planned for you. Excited to be here with you guys and to hopefully be of service. Our number one mission here is to inspire and to give inspiration and information. That's what we're here for. And please don't mistake me for an expert or a mind reader. So what that means is we have other experts come on the show and that you need to write to me and tell me what you need. If there's something in particular that you need, because otherwise I may not know. I likely won't know, right? Yes, I am an autism mom. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, but let's face it, every person with autism is different. And I'm still very much in the front row learning. And like a lot of you, it's like, we want to know more, right? And my son is his own person. He's not necessarily like you or someone that you love in your family. So don't assume that I know what you need, right? And tell me what's going on, and then let me help you to try to see if we can find something for you where you are. And that leads me to my next thing is, how do you connect with the show? And Traven here in a second will show you a wonderful graphic of the different ways that you can connect with the show. I want you to know that you can watch the show live in a lot of different places, and it's free in all the places that we are. If somebody is charging for us, it's not with our say so. Let's say that. But so here is a list of some of the different ways that you can connect with us. You see that we're live on Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube, and on our homepage, which is autism-live.com. Now, once we're done being live, you can still find the recordings on Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube, right? But you can also find the podcast of Autism Live on the other side. You can go to iTunes, and it's a free download. You can download either Just Sound, Take Us for a Walk. Yes. Observe distance from people while you're doing it, but take us for a walk, take us for a car ride. Or you can listen to us on Spotify. You can listen on iHeartRadio or on Deezer. And again, don't forget, you can always find us at autism-live.com. Now, in each one of these different formats, there are different pluses and minuses, and we hope that you will access the way that is great for you. And if there's a way that you like to access information and podcasts, and it's not on this list, please bring it to our attention, because we love to add ways for people to view us. We don't want you to have to go searching, right? That's that, we want to be any place that you are, and we want to be free there. That's what we're trying to do. Now, some of these places are interactive, and you can write us in questions. You can write in questions on Twitter, on Facebook, on Periscope, and on YouTube. And you absolutely can write into us on autism-live.com. I know many of you love our guest who's going to be on the show today. So if you can be writing in on any of those places. And we try to do our best to moderate the comments and to answer as many comments as we possibly can. But with our growing popularity, and I say that like, what a quality problem, right? The more people that watch, the more people that write in, we don't necessarily get to all of the comments in the live show. We try to catch up on them afterwards. We are behind, largely because we had Temple Grandin on, it's 2 weeks ago today, and we're still catching up because so many people wrote in, and we like to make sure that we connect with as many people as we possibly can. So please be patient with us. We're doing the level best that we can, just like you are, right? I do want to point out that on our homepage, autism-live.com, there is a chat button at the very bottom of the page. If you click the chat, then it opens up a little box and you are able to have a conversation with me. I have that one on a separate iPad over here on a screen just to the side over here that you guys can't see, so that I can moderate the comments there. So, and then Traven helps me during the show to send me comments from the Facebook and the YouTube. So that's a wonderful thing. Like, for instance, Emma, I want to know if I can go home to mom's as I'm struggling here on my own. And I'm sending you a hug, Emma. And I'm going to tell you that I don't know what your circumstances are in terms of what your health is and what your mom's health is. So I want you to reach out to whoever is the person that you trust in your life to have a conversation with them about both your health and your mom's health, and what exposures you both have had and what risks you both have, to see if that's something that works out. And obviously, please speak with your mom to see how she feels about that as well. But it is hard on your own. And I want you to know we're here with you, and glad that you're here with us. And it is hard on your own. I keep thinking about all the people that are in their homes alone and don't have somebody else with them, because I think I would have lost my marbles if it weren't for my husband and my son. I am, quarantined with my two favorite people. And I can't imagine what it would be like if you're away from someone you care about, or if you are just isolated. It'd be a tough, tough time. So please, thank you for reaching out to us, Emma. And please reach out to your mom and somebody you trust that knows your circumstances, who can help you to make the decision about whether this is right for you and right for your mom. We also are saying hi to Jana. And Jana, am I saying it right, or is it Yana? I always wonder whenever you write into us. So in any case, see, there's an example. We have people writing in right now. All right. I do like to tell you a couple of things at the start of the show. And one of them is that we do have lots of experts on the show. Boy, have I got an expert for you today. Woo! He ticks all of the boxes, right? But I just always like to remind you, we have lots of experts. I'm not one of them. I'm a mom, and you're talking about moms. I'm a mom, and I'm a proud mom. And I'm a former school teacher, and I am someone who cares deeply that you guys get the help and the resources that you need. That's what my credentials are, right? And yes, I've been doing this for over 10 years now, hosting shows about autism. So I've interviewed a lot of people. Yes, I'm opinionated. Yes, I consider it an informed opinion, but not everybody agrees with me, and that's okay, right? It is what it is. But please don't mistake my opinion for expert advice, because it is not. And that's all I have to say about that. Also, want to say to you that we here on Autism Live welcome the entire greater autism community. And what I mean by that is, first and foremost, we welcome individuals who are on the autism spectrum, of course, right? The show is called Autism Live, and we want to be a resource and information and a place for those individuals to have a voice, right? Of course. But we also welcome everyone who loves those people. That's the moms and the dads and the brothers and the sisters and the cousins and the grandparents. And by the way, the ABA therapists and the OTs and the SLPs and all of those people, because we want to help those people to get to the resources and information that they need also, so that they can better serve those loved ones that they have. By the way, I left out spouses, we love all of those people. So just wanted to be clear about what we're doing here and why we're doing it. Now, on Thursday, we like to start the show with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani are those experts talking about, and why? Why do they have to make it so difficult? I always say we give you the actual definition first, then whenever possible, I make fun of it because I am who I am. And what else are you going to do with it, right? And then we give you a working definition, which we hope will start the very beginnings of the understanding. Don't expect to get it the first time, because most of us don't, right? But that's why we go back over them. And what you'll see is that eventually you'll be someplace in your life and the circumstance will come up and you'll go, oh, I think it's that thing. That's that thing. Oh, what was the name of that? It's that. That's what that is. And it'll all start to make sense, right? Okay, we just do it a little bit at a time so that we don't have to get overwhelmed, because we're overwhelmed enough. All right, you can see that our jargon term for today is SLP. Welcome to the land of alphabet, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you go crazy sometimes? And now with all the text things, this is how old I am. My husband and I have to Google all the things that come with the text, when people, I know LOL and those, but now there's a bunch of them I don't know what they mean, and I have to Google them. It's sad state. But for autism, sometimes it's equally as overwhelming, right? So what on earth is an SLP? Let's take a look at our actual definition and see what there is. So they're not much to make fun here. So an SLP stands for a speech and language pathologist. Woohoo! Why couldn't we just say that? Because it takes too long. That's why. So they call it the SLP. And you'll especially hear this when your child is school aged. Everybody will be constantly talking about, well, the SLP said this, and the SLP wants to do that, and the SLP this. But let's take a look at our working definition for SLP to see if we can't put this in proper context of what are we talking about with an SLP when we're talking about an autism diagnosis. An SLP is a person who works on speech production, articulation, and social communication. All right, now you probably are like, oh, that sort of made sense. I kind of knew that, but I want to be really particular here, because a lot of times we lump speech into one big category and we say, oh, so-and-so is verbal, nonverbal, talking, not talking, right? But there's all these nuances to it, right? And we need to identify what the issues are as we're working on them. For instance, and we want to know this so that we can be talking with our SLP about what we want to accomplish, right? For some of our kids, especially our kids who have apraxia, but kids who don't have apraxia too, it's the actual being able to get the sound out. You watch somebody who has apraxia and you can see that they want to say the word, but it is not there. The connection to the brain and the connection to the muscles that do it, it isn't connecting. It's not firing right. And it's very, very frustrating. So we want to make sure that a person has the mechanics and that we want to be working on it for them to be able to produce the sounds, right? And by the way, there can be other issues besides the apraxia. Sometimes our kids just have not developed the musculature or the habits that come with producing sound. We were talking with Dr. Grambichet the other day about, being able to blow. That when you and I say "b" and "p," we're pushing air through our lips. It's called a stop plosive, that the lips go together and there's a "p" of air that goes through them, right? And some of our kids just don't pick that up on their own. And so we actually need to work on that kind of thing. So that's the production side of it. But then there's the articulation part of it, which is, we all to some degree are working on articulation, right? But for a kiddo who's gone through all the machinations to be able to produce the sound, to be able to say something, to request, say, a cookie, right? Because that's what they want. And what we want is to be developing that speech and have that be reinforcing for them so that if they say cookie, that they get a cookie, right? Because that fosters more speech. But there's nothing more frustrating for a kid who's gone through all the work to be able to produce the sound, and then they say it and nobody understands it, right? And some of you right now are sitting there going, uh-oh, this is my kiddo, right? You might have a 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old that you understand, that you get, you totally know what they're saying, but nobody else does. And that's a big old drag because we get into the next thing, which is social communication, that if I don't have the ability to communicate the way you can receive communication, we're going to have a hitch in our whole social communication. This is, we were sort of talking about the other day, somebody was asking about sign language. And I love sign language. And my favorite thing with these press conferences that we've been having is to get to see all these amazing signers who are interpreters who are signing. And it's like I'm determined that I'm going to learn sign language and I'm going to start it during this COVID period of time. But the truth is that the vast majority of the population does not understand sign language. So, it's frustrating for a person who knows sign language and that's their method of communication. If they're speaking to someone, it's like being somebody who only speaks Italian and you are in Russia, right? You're going to have difficulty with social communication and getting the things that you need. But there's a whole area of social communication that's nuanced. That isn't just how you produce sound and how you articulate it. It's understanding the give and take in conversation. It's understanding when the person is looking away that they're disinterested. It's understanding the facial expressions on somebody, whether somebody is bored or angry or upset, right? There are a whole bunch of nuances to social communication. So when you or your child are working with an SLP and you're thinking about what are the things that are preventing this individual or me from being able to do the things I want to do, a lot of times people just think of one thing here with an SLP, but the truth is that a good SLP can work with you on all of these things. And that's when things really get rocking. So there's our jargon for today. Okay, we always have a question for you. And this question, I put it in days ago and I really wanted to change it. But that's okay. I'm going to ask this question sometime next week. But this is perfectly fine. What is the best part of your day? We asked you yesterday, what's the hardest part? Now I want to know what is the best part of your day. Write in and tell me on Facebook or YouTube or any of the ways or on the live feature and tell me what the best part of your day is. Because, claim it, name it and claim it. Okay. All right. We always have a topic of the week. And our topic this week is all about running a marathon, not a sprint. Look, this is where we are with this COVID thing is that, there was a lot of discussion about, are we all going to go home and stay home? Is that going to happen? Like, what's happening? Should we stock up? Should we not stock up? That we can't close down the world, right? And then it was, we are closing down the world. It's just for 14 days. All right, we can do 14 days. 14 days is a sprint. I mean, it seemed like a marathon at the time, but it turns out it was the sprint. Then it was, it looks like we're going to be here for another we're going to be here another month. And I don't know how long we're going to be here. I don't know. I want us all to be safe. But I think most of us have had that shift. Sometime between last week and this week, it's the shift of, okay, this is not a blip in time. This is going to be a longer period of time. And we're adapting to what everybody's calling the new normal. It's going to keep changing and we have to keep adapting. And at some point, we're going to get back to some semblance of our life. But I think we're all in agreement now that some things are going to change permanently because we're starting to see that some things make more sense. That some people are going, look, I can work from home. look how this works, right? And other things we're going, oh, do you see how that was not working at all before, right? So we've got to adjust our thinking right now and say, what do I need to do to make everything work in this time period? And that might be a small conversation, that might be a ginormous conversation. But I especially want to take a second to talk to the parents out there of individuals who are on the autism spectrum, that we all want to help you. As a parent who went through early intervention with my child, and I know how hard it was, and I can't even imagine how hard it is for you now. But as I was saying yesterday with Dr. Grandpichet, it doesn't mean you get to stop. And Temple Grandin was telling you 2 weeks ago, this, we don't want to lose the progress that we already have. So I want to encourage you, there are resources for you available now. Please avail yourself of the resources. Let's run the marathon. Forget the sprint. We're not in a sprint anymore. Let's run the marathon. And for a lot of you, I just want to put it out there. There are telehealth services for you, from supervision to actual ABA therapy that could be helping you right now. And I know you're like, that sounds impossible. That sounds ridiculous. That sounds really overwhelming. I'm just begging you to try it. Begging you. We're putting out a challenge. Try it. Try it once, then write me back and tell me. But I think you're going to find overwhelmingly people have been writing in to us and saying, oh my gosh, this is saving my life. So I'm begging you, I'm challenging you. Try it. Just once, just once. I'm not asking you to commit to the rest of your life. Just try it once. And then tell me the story. Because so far, everybody's like, OMG, this is incredible. And if you watched our Card Heroes last week where we were interviewing those therapists and they were talking about how they're getting it done, I want to see this. I can't stand it. I like all these young people who are doing all these fun, crazy puppet shows and things to get the kids engaged, and the kids are loving it. So I'm hearing from the parents that they're loving it, and I'm hearing from the therapists that it's so great because the kids have missed them. Please, please don't let your children regress during this time. Give the telehealth a try. All right. And every day I'm supposed to be sharing an activity with you guys, and I forgot to look and see what the activity was. So I don't even know, Traven, is it there? It may not be. If it isn't there, then I each day I had one planned for you. I can't tell if it's going to show up or not. Oh, well, it's who we're going to have on the show. But let me just say this, that on our Pinterest page, Autism Live has a Pinterest page, and I've put tons and tons of resources. So if you're like, I don't know what to do for myself today, there is a whole button that is about self-care for caregivers. Please, and it has things that aren't for caregivers too. So please go in and find yourself something to do for self-care today. Sometimes the hardest part is thinking like, what could I do for myself? So you don't have to think, just go to Pinterest, find Autism Live's page and tootle around. I put some really good stuff there for you guys. But look who we have on the show today. It's very exciting for me. We love some Carrie Magro here. And excuse me, Dr. Carrie Magro. He has been being on the show, I want to say, for 9 years, like since we started. We've had Carrie Magro. I've yet to meet Carrie in person. I don't know how that could possibly be true. I feel like I've watched him grow up. The first time that he was on this show, I think he was maybe a junior or a senior in college, getting ready to graduate. And now he's Dr. Carrie Magro. So I think, is he with us in the waiting room? I believe. Oh, okay. Well, I'll come back to that. But is Carrie with us in the waiting room, Traven? If he is, go ahead and put him in here with us so that we can start to talk to Carrie. Carrie is a remarkable author, speaker, advocate, and I feel like he's one of the bright shining lights in, yeah, let's have him come in. Have him join us here, Traven. Carrie, can you hear me? I'm just going to keep talking about him because I do think he's one of the bright shining lights in the autism. There he is, but you're on your side. Can we possibly flip you? Look at you with your beanie, looking all cute. Can you, I think that you can hear me, but can you undo your mic so that we can hear you? We might just have to have him sideways. but then I'll turn. Hi, Carrie. There you are. I can't hear you yet. So we're going to work on that for a second, but I'm going to keep talking about you and how fabulous. So Carrie has written several books, and I'm telling you, if you are looking for something to do, hey,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, but I'm getting a little bit of echo. So we're going to work on that for a second, but I'm going to keep talking. Oh, somewhere on your computer, you're playing the live show. So you just need to stop wherever that is. That's why I'm getting a little bit of a lag.
Oh, okay, perfect. Is this better?
It's so much better. Look at how cute you are in your beanie, Carrie. Look at you. Excuse me, Dr. Magro.
Yes. As of last May. May.
I think that's the last time you were on the show. And it was like I think it was the first day that you had actually had your degree conferred upon you. And so I think we were the first one to be able to call you Dr. Magro, but it's still new to me, yes. Relatively.
It's new to me as well. But it's been quite a year. Hitting the 1-year anniversary next month of once I graduated. So it's still surreal to me, and it's just it's been an incredible year.
Carrie, we love you. I was just saying, you're just such a bright light in the autism community. You're always a positive influence. You are such a role model for so many of our young people. And I think you give so many parents so much hope. The first time that you were ever on the show, I was saying that I think you were a junior or a senior getting ready to graduate from college. And you were so well spoken. And you were like, I don't know, peanut butter and butter pecan ice cream mixed together. You were just luscious. And that we all couldn't stop talking about you for the longest time. We were like, this young man. And, I prefer to let you tell your story about, how you came to be in the autism community. So tell your story, and then we're going to get the update on how you're working for HBO and working on Mrs. Fletcher and all the things you got going on. But tell your story. I'm gonna drop my camera out so people can see you better.
Oh there yeah. So I have had the most amazing time, obviously, over the years, getting to know Shannon and Autism Live. But I was diagnosed with autism when I was 4. So I was diagnosed in 1992 when the numbers of autism were 1 in 1,000 in the United States. Today, autism is the fastest growing developmental disability. And I found from a very, very early age, when I was about 11, that I was on the autism spectrum. And it was very life-changing for me to learn about my autism diagnosis. And once I got to college, I went to Seton Hall University with sport management in mind, in the hopes of joining the sports world. Sports has always been one of my unique key interests growing up on the spectrum, but I realized there was such a need to talk about autism and disability in our community, so I changed career paths. So for the past 9 years, I've been a professionally certified speaker with the National Speakers Association, getting to travel across the globe, hitting the decade mark since I first became accredited, of getting the opportunity to speak around the country on autism, disability, and inclusion, and so many more topics, and getting to meet some amazing people, getting to work with amazing autism organizations like the Autism Society of America and the National Autism Association. And it's just been quite a journey, getting to write several books, and then also getting to work in our entertainment industry to make sure we're bringing a realistic portrayal of disability to our entertainment industry. But it was a lot of work. I love what you said about it's really a marathon. It's not a sprint. Because it took a while for me to overcome many of my obstacles, but I'm so glad to be here today and have the ability to share my voice and my story for the world to hear.
And moms and dads all over the world are swooning right now because you're so delicious. And we love, we love you and we love what you say, and it gives us so much hope. So, but I want to talk about, what you were saying about working in the entertainment industry and how important it is for you to have accurate representation. So tell them a little bit about, what you've been doing. And this is not your first time you on Mrs. Fletcher.
Yeah.
You've done this for other things. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, I had the amazing opportunity to be reached out by HBO. They were working on a project in Brooklyn, which focused on one of the characters in that show actually being a nonverbal boy on the autism spectrum. And I jumped on that opportunity right away because the projects that I worked on in the past, Joyful Noise and Jane Wants a Boyfriend, focused on two individuals with autism who were really, really verbal, had great communication abilities, and kind of got the same thing that I usually get, which is, oh, you have autism, but you don't look like you have autism. And this project was really great because it gave me the opportunity to focus on another side of our autism spectrum. And I got to consult, it was a limited series on HBO, which aired last fall. And being able to make sure that this character, which was just this 5-year-old boy, nonverbal boy on the autism spectrum, making it as realistic as humanly possible. So it made me reflect a lot about my early days of being nonverbal. Even though I said my first word when I was 3, I still have countless journals and articles from my family that I was able to review while thinking about this character and making it as realistic as possible.
And such an important thing. And I believe that people can still be watching Mrs. Fletcher, because I think it's on HBO Demand and they should be watching it. Great show, great cast, and wonderful work that you did on that. And as you said, not the first time that you did that. But this is a very important thing that I'm glad that we're seeing some traction in the entertainment industry, that this, accuracy of representation is so important. And it's important in other fields too, but especially, it's called Autism Live, so we're going to talk about autism. And Carrie, I'm surprised, or maybe I just don't know. Have people approached you about doing some acting work and auditioning for some of the roles now that are out there?
It's really interesting because that has actually come up several times. I come from a background in theater when I was in high school, but it's not something that I actually considered for most of the projects that I was working on. But now I'm actually putting myself out there to potentially do a little bit more acting work. So we'll definitely see what's going on. I've received a few offers that I really can't talk too much about because I've signed NDAs, but hopefully there won't be. I might be able to talk about soon.
See, I started the show by saying I'm not psychic, but maybe I am, because that's a thing that should have happened. So, and I didn't know that it was happening, but I'm glad that I fished there. But we'll see, and you'll tell us later on when you can tell us. But Carrie, one of the things that we wanted to talk about with you, you are so amazing, and you post continuously, and I think people need to be following you because you have so many stories of hope, and you go and speak, and every time you speak you meet somebody, and I feel like you tell their story for them, which is just a really luscious thing to have in your feed on a regular basis. And Carrie is so modest, but he also has a wonderful charity that gives scholarships to young people on the spectrum going to college, and you can find out about all of that. So where should they go to be following you and to be getting that luscious feed of you meeting people and telling their stories?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started a nonprofit when I was actually just starting professional speaking for the first time, called KFM Making a Difference. So we've given out 68 scholarships for students with autism, partial scholarships with autism the past 8 years. So for people who want to stay in contact with me, I have a Facebook page called Carrie's Autism Journey, where one of the great things I get to do when we're not in the COVID-19 pandemic and I can actually go back out speaking is we bring a tripod and a camera and we sit down with self-advocates, and we sit down with them for 10 to 15 minutes at a time, and we ask them what they would like the world to know about them. So we have over 100 stories of self-advocates from across the globe who simply just want to share their stories. We believe that we've been given a huge opportunity to have a platform of over 200,000 Facebook followers and giving opportunity for these individuals to have a platform to share their stories was really important for me, because I still don't think we hear often enough from our self-advocate community from a large scale. I hear so many parents who have these large followings, and sometimes I get a little curious why self-advocates have as large of followings as many of the parents and experts in our field. And this is a big reason why I wanted to start that video series, to give them a little bit of my platform so they can continue to share their stories to as large an audience as possible. So Carrie's Autism Journey is my Facebook page. And then I also have all the Instagram, Twitter. I'm even on TikTok now, which I got peer pressured into. So
I got to check that out. And I got to say, I really appreciate what you were just talking about, because I get a fair amount of criticism here at Autism Live, and people will say to me, you know, you're a parent, you shouldn't be the person hosting this show. This should be hosted by somebody who's on the autism spectrum. And you know what? I don't disagree. I don't disagree, but over the years, we have, you know, whenever possible, we have had self-advocates come in. We've offered them space, you know, to do their thing. And Carrie, I'm going to just put this out to you. Like, if you ever want space on Autism Live, it's yours. I remember years ago, before you became so big, we were asking you if you wanted to come in and do your own little segment on the show. But, you know, so in the meantime, I'm here. But if Carrie ever wants to take my place, I'm sure we can arrange for that to happen. But because I do feel like it's really important that we give self-advocates a voice. I find that a lot of times self-advocates are busy. And that's just the long and short of it. I think that sometimes as parents, we, when our kids are a little bit older, we have a little bit more free time because we're not doing the social thing that you guys are doing. And I think that that's part and parcel. You know, we've watched over the years, Autism was Live has watched a lot of, you know, different people. You're the only person who's still doing a show. And you do a show. Talk a little bit about, I don't know if you're still doing it now, but you from time to time are doing your show.
Right. So a few years ago, I started a show called The Different is Beautiful Show, in the hopes of, again, with this platform of self-advocates, making people realize that different is very beautiful in many aspects. It goes off Temple Grandin's Different Not Less, who I admire so much in our autism community. So I haven't been doing that show, unfortunately, just because of how crazy my schedule has been with public speaking. But it's definitely something I'm going to definitely try to pick back up maybe in the future once I get off the road and start to settle down and hopefully a family at some point. So.
Well, all right. Since you brought that up,
I know.
I was thinking about all the things that I wanted to ask you, and I was like, oh, I should probably ask Carrie ahead of time. But one of the things that I keep thinking about in this COVID situation is all the young people and what the dating situation is like. And, you know, does this make you more want to move towards getting married and having babies? Or, you know, and you just brought it up, Carrie, so I'm just following up. Are there babies in the future?
So I'm dating, but I haven't. So I'm single and dating as of right now. So hopefully in the future that would be something. But I definitely would be open to it in the future. It's one of my life goals to get married, have a family. It's very interesting being in this whole COVID-19 situation in dating, because it's very dating apps. You lead up to it and then you're like, oh wait, we can't go out on dates, and then it becomes a virtual FaceTime, and it's very odd in many aspects. So,
but you know, I gotta say, Carrie, I said this at the beginning, there are gonna be some great love stories that come out of this, because this, like I remember my grandparents having to write letters to each other you know, from my grandfather was at war and they had to write letters and they fell in love through letters. So I think that some really brilliant love stories are going to come out of this. And for people who are writers like you, there will be stories to tell, Carrie.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because I have many mentees who are young adults who are desperately looking for relationships and love. And I know that they are at home and their routines have kind of been changed a little bit. So I've just been telling them, just really be on the lookout. You never know who might be quarantined at home as well, who might be wanting to start a conversation with somebody as incredible as some of my mentees.
So, which brings up our next point, which you are someone who is available to mentor people. So if people are watching, and they themselves are like, look, I need some help and support, or somebody who has a kiddo, what age range are you really wanting to mentor, Carrie?
So the age ranges that I've been working with most recently have been teenagers and young adults. So anywhere from the ages of 13 to 24 are usually the range that I've been working with, at least quite recently. But I've worked with older adults as well, even individuals who realize their autism and disability diagnosis in adulthood and want to understand more about the community. So it's been very mixed in nature, but 13 to 24, and they could go to my website at carriemagro.com where all my contact information is at. And if they reach out to me, I would love to start a conversation, because one of the things we talk about the whole dating aspect, but we also talk about mock interviews, how to get into a post-secondary education, how to apply for scholarship aid, et cetera, and so forth. So a very wide.
There's a lot there to talk about. So in this, we've sort of skirted around it in this COVID emergency with people secluding. I know that you've been a proponent that, you know, there's some things that people can do to help themselves. Talk about the new normal and what you're advocating.
Yeah, no, I think first and foremost, we need our community to realize that even though this might seem like the new normal right now, we are going to go back to a place before physical distancing in the future. A lot of people who I've talked to are very just gloom and doom about all this. And from a mental health perspective, I think we need to realize that one day there will be a vaccine, one day there will be an opportunity for us to leave our homes, not have to worry about physical distancing, and to really be cognizant of that. Because right now it feels like a lot of people in our community are going stir crazy. I know I have gone that way several times in the past few weeks. So I think that's really important. But also really trying to find a daily schedule for themselves. That's really, really key in our community. We need every single young person, but also adults, to create that structure, to come to at least some place of normalcy. And that means having a visual schedule, but also educating younger children by social stories to tell them about COVID. I've been an advocate quite recently of making sure that individuals don't watch a lot of news right now to keep that very, very minimal in nature, because you hear a lot of statistics, a lot of facts from a lot of different people, and some of the times those things are not accurate. So making sure to keep watching the news to a minimal as well, while also building that daily schedule for yourself while this is going on.
Well, and that's all great advice, Carrie. And I wonder, because you brought up the whole thing about going stir crazy. And so I'm wondering, when you feel that way, what kinds of things are you doing to help yourself, aside, because the schedule's a great one, but what else in the moment when you're feeling antsy, what helps you?
Well, it's interesting that just a few minutes before our chat today, I was buying myself a miniature treadmill so I could work inside the house, which will literally cost like $150 just so I could get my work in. Because I think one of the things that we unfortunately do is when we're in the house, we don't really think about the physical activity. And that's something that's so important for our mental health that sometimes we take for granted. Short-term and long-term retention it boost once you have 30 minutes of cardio activity every single day. And it's the same thing with depression down when you're actually so I think that has been a really important aspect for me, especially since this quarantine began. But then also just making sure that I avoid a long period of screen time, because that can make anyone go crazy. Looking at the countless emails, looking at how many Zoom webinars I can put in place for our community during World Autism Month, trying to make sure that I take some time to actually read a book, actually talk on the phone with my family. All these things are tremendously important. So I don't deal with eye strain and dealing with too much activity when it comes to the screen time.
Yeah, even when it's productive screen time, like you were saying, like planning webinars, sometimes you got to step away from it, because I know it seems like there's two different worlds here that, you know, my husband is home for the quarantine and he's not working. Some of the time he works, like, you know, because he does voiceover stuff. And so, you know, he might work an hour a week, right? Whereas I'm working overtime. Like we're working constantly here. And because, you know, it takes a lot. And so our lives are totally different, but we both have to be taking time away from the screen time, because it's not good for either of us. Whether for him it's Netflix, or for me it's, you know, being, you know, here with you guys. Everybody has to take a break. But you brought up reading as a thing to do, and I see that you've got one of your books over your shoulder. Let's talk about some, because people need to be reading, and why not read some of the things that you have written, which are available on your site, carriemagro.com, correct?
Correct, yes. And I honestly didn't even realize that was there. This is my old MacBook Pro from 2011 that doesn't work anymore. So it's become a placeholder to put books and magazines.
Well,
And
bring it forward. Show people the cover, because that's you when you were a bambino, wasn't it? Or is it just on the screen? Is it the physical book?
It was me back in the day when I was a very, very young kid, when I was about 2.5, 3 years old, when I was still nonverbal. But my books are available on my website at carriemagro.com/books. I've written a book on self-advocacy called Defining Autism from the Heart, Autism and Falling in Love, to help our loved ones go about going into relationships. And then my children's book, I Will Light It Up Blue, which came out last year, about two twins on the autism spectrum. So I have another book that I'm planning on releasing at some point, hopefully in the fall of this year, depending on how this COVID situation goes. On college for those on the autism spectrum.
Well, timely. I've got a kiddo who's finishing his junior year, so I'm gonna need that one.
Awesome.
It's wonderful. He's fabulous. He's doing really well, and he's so far, you know, knock on wood, this quarantine is not bothering him. He's doing his classes, and I have pressed him into work. He keeps having to because he wants to study film, Carrie. And so we've made a couple of videos that he has been the person shooting them and editing them. So I've put him to work. And so as long as he's busy, he's a happy camper. Okay. And so Carrie, I haven't asked you, are you living in New York right now?
So I'm in Hoboken right now. It's been
still kind of the hotbed of where stuff is happening, right? Are you safe?
Absolutely. No, I am perfectly safe. I live in a big apartment complex where we have all the needs, Grubhub, Seamless, everything we could ever need. And groceries are very, very easy to come by, thankfully, because I know that's not in a lot of areas right now. So yeah, I've just been here and just weighing it out. And hopefully we'll be through this situation soon. But I know a lot of my friends in New York are having a very challenging time right now. And also New Jersey, we have the second highest diagnosis rate of COVID, I believe, right now.
Well, we want you to stay safe. Now, you mentioned normally you're out speaking everywhere. You would have had a very busy month. There's no way we would have had time. We would have had time, but you wouldn't have had time to do this if this month had played out like we thought it was going to play out. But I hear you saying that you're planning all these virtual webinars and things. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, sure. It's been really challenging because during the month of April, I was supposed to have 21 in-person talks. April is the biggest month of revenue for me as a professional speaker because it's World Autism Month. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of learning curves where a lot of groups were very against going to do their conferences via Zoom, their live events via like Google Hangout, Facebook Live, et cetera, and so forth. So most of my events got either postponed or canceled for the month. And it really made me have to recreate the wheel a lot in terms of my public speaking, which led to me just really reaching out to all my old contacts and really realizing that a lot of people were struggling because they some form of World Autism Month offense, but really didn't know how. And having a background in educational technology leadership, which was my doctorate, it gave me the opportunity to really look at how we can provide as many webinars during the month of April. So at least we can salvage World Autism Month even a little bit. So I had been doing Facebook Lives and Zoom webinars almost since the first week of April, and I still have ones lined up for the rest of April and May. And one of the great things that we're doing is we're actually doing a free webinar because we know that the unemployment rates are continuing to rise in the United States. So we're actually doing a weekly Zoom webinar for individuals in our community just to give them that education at this time and providing certificates of completion. So at least if somebody's looking to potentially get back into a workforce after this is over, they have a little bit something that they can add to the resumes.
And when and where are those? How do people register?
Sure. So I post all of them on my Facebook page at Carrie's Autism Journey. So we've been doing topics on navigating virtual learning. Our next one is how to succeed in school for a student with a learning disability. And then our final one at the end of the month is going to be on the 4 areas into adulthood. So looking at guardianship, employment, post-secondary, and housing. So busy.
Yeah. Okay, so we can check all that out on your Facebook page. You're incredible, and you know I know this is I know that this is annoying that I'm going to ask this, but I know people are writing in and they want to know, like, you seem so amazing. Are there areas that you still struggle in that are autism related?
Yes. So the biggest thing is transition difficulties and ironically enough, routine changes. And those are 2 of my biggest struggles to this day, along with definitely having a few challenges with social interaction at times. I can feel very overwhelmed, for example, if I'm at a big cocktail party where I know that for 3 hours I'm going to be shaking hands, kissing babies, speaking to as many people as humanly possible, and that can feel very overwhelming for me. So those are definitely some of the big challenges that I still have to this day. And then just the whole routine change has been it was very jarring at first, but now I'm kind of settling in.
So when you've got to go to a big event like a cocktail party, and you gotta do the whole it's like at someday you do need to go into politics, Carrie. I'm just saying. After you do the movie star thing, you need to go into politics because I'll vote for you.
Absolutely.
Right? So you got to do that whole meet and greet, kiss the babies sort of thing. Not in this emergency, right? But no. Is there a ritual that you do beforehand to help you to be able to handle that? And is there something that you do afterwards to sort of decompress?
So the way I usually start out is I really just try to think about who are the major people I need to talk to at the events. So if I'm going to speak an event and there's a reception afterwards, knowing which people I'm probably going to be with at that time, who I'm going to be talking to the most, just because I like to be prepared for any situation, because it brings me to a place where if I'm prepared before I go into a situation, I'm much more calm and I'm much more able to be myself, not mask any certain behaviors as well. So that's definitely the big thing. And then afterwards, I definitely do like a glass of red wine after any type of event as kind of just a way of relaxing, but also just decompressing, being by myself. Watching sports is still the go-to. I try to find any type of sport and I try to just go to. That's a big thing.
Well, and we have to say, because you look quite young, but obviously you're Dr. Kerry Magro. You know, have a PhD. He is definitely of drinking age, so it's totally legal. Because you look a little young, Kerry. I don't want people writing in saying what's happening here. This is Dr. Kerry Magro, and he is definitely of legal age that he can enjoy a glass of red wine. No letters, please. So Kerry, we're just about out of time. Why don't we go through, tell them the Facebook page to go to again and your website again.
Sure. So it's Kerry's Autism Journey, which could just be found at facebook.com/specialcommunity. My website is kerrymagro.com if you're interested in learning more about the films and the books that I've worked on. And then just reach out to me anytime if you're looking for consulting, but also a Zoom webinar during the month of April. We've been working with businesses, schools, and community events during the entire month. It's been really, really great.
And same place, where do we go if we want to talk to you about mentoring, either for ourselves or for our kiddos?
Sure. So you could go to my website, kerrymagro.com, but you're also feel free to contact me via my email at any time at kerrymagro@gmail.com. We receive just a little over 200 emails a day from people in our community, and we try to get to as many as we possibly can because we realize it takes a village, and we want our community to not feel alone and just remember that there are people out there looking after them.
And many people are writing in and saying, thank you so much for being here. But one in particular that jumps out at me, really good to hear and get information from this session. My son is 3 years, quite a happy child, verbal, but cannot tell what he needs most of the time. He was diagnosed at 2 years of age. And again, Kerry, I just know that like being able to see you, sometime I got to get your mother on the show. Like I don't know if she's at all interested, but you know, I just feel like we would want to ask her 1,000,008 questions, but being able to see you, hear you, be with you, love you, gives us all hope. Because you are an incredible young man, and I think any of us would be so proud to claim you, and it gives us all kinds of hope for the direction that our kiddos are going in. So thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you, Shannon, for having me on. And I'm trying to get my mom into public speaking. So I'll definitely be talking to her about
Hook me up. We've got to get Ms. Magro on the show to give us the 411 about all the things that she did. I know you're your own person and you are, you know, but let's face it, you know, we always, when we meet a mensch and you're a mensch, we always want to know, you know, okay, what did the mom prioritize so that we can grow mensches too. Kerry, just love you so much. We are totally out of time now, but come back to us whenever you want. We will make airtime for you. I'm not kidding.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. And thank you for having me on, and be safe.
You too. Keep us posted. All right. We love you, Kerry. Bye-bye. There we go. I was muted. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Shannon. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. As good as can be expected during all of this strange times we live in, right?
Right. We were just talking before we came on the air, Nancy and I was saying about there's a whole bunch of stuff that I have just stopped caring about. And
I know. I saw something funny the other day on Facebook. You know those "I voted" signs with the American flag? It said "I showered."
exactly. And that, I got to be honest with you, that is like something I still very much care about. Like, because I can't go to bed at night without having a shower, and I can't put makeup on in the morning without having a shower. I'm one of those horrible people that wastes water and takes 2 showers a day. I'm a
You're
big woman. I need
crazy.
it.
I have been enjoying not washing my hair for a week at a
Oh,
time.
I cannot do it. I cannot hit the pillow unless I've had a shower. But there's other stuff that I just don't give a flying fig about, and that I just like my hair. Witness, I have to be able to wash it. I have to have water on my head. I'm a water baby, and I don't have a swimming pool, so I gotta have that. I gotta have that water sensory thing every
Right.
day, a couple of times a day. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I just can't. And good morning. We're having people say good morning already. We're thrilled that you guys are here
Good morning to
and
everybody.
and with us.
Yeah, I know everybody's got different rules and regulations depending upon what state they're in, and it looks like some of the states are going to ease up on some of the restrictions.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I got to be honest. I know that a lot of people are out there hurting and that they need a paycheck, and that, they're not getting access to the unemployment like they had believed that they were going to. But I just worry we're going to put ourselves in further danger. And, I have friends, I'm sure you do too, Nancy, that work in the medical field, and, they're the ones I'm listening to, because
Right.
there's so much noise. But I have a very dear friend from high school that, is an administrator at a hospital, and I'm listening to what he's saying. And he's
And are they
saying,
having a lot of cases there?
oh, yes.
Because
And,
I have the opposite experience. I have a friend at Los Robles Hospital, and she says the nurses are actually being given time off their shifts because there's not enough for them to do there.
are you kidding me?
No.
Well, my friend is in San Diego, and he is like, sit yourself down and don't go anywhere.
Really? Okay.
He's like, the best thing you can do for me and my team right now is to sit your fanny down and not go anywhere. So that's what I'm listening.
They had a surge in cases a couple of weeks ago, and then everything seemed to lighten up in the last couple of days. So
Well, that to me is evidence that it's working. So I
Right.
just want to be careful about when we stop it. I don't know. But that's why better minds than mine are working on it. But yeah. We've got a little bit of news for you guys. And then we've got one of our favorite guests. Am I wrong,
Yes.
Nancy? This is one of our favorite people.
She's definitely one of our favorite guests.
And we, both Nancy and I, count her as a friend. She is super powerhouse Vena Tiero. And I'm never sure whether I'm pronouncing her last name.
I think that's it,
correct.
Tiero. Yeah.
And but I'm always nervous because it's one of those names that it's like, ooh, I'm not sure. But Vena, we love Vena, and I always tell her I want to grow up to be her. I always wanted to grow up to be her. She is just a stunningly beautiful, articulate, wonderful, fabulous mother, and she's a filmmaker, and she's just an all around. She's a great friend. She's somebody who's enthusiastic and passionate about everything that she comes into contact with that's worthwhile. And she's just a sweet person. She's the kind of person that, if you're standing there in your distress, she would offer you the dress on her back. Am I wrong? She's
right.
just amazing.
She's a very caring person, and she's an incredible activist
Yeah.
in the world of autism. And we're going to talk to her about that and about her latest efforts she's a documentary filmmaker. And we're going to talk to her about her enterprises in that area, and about her sons, Bakari and Carter.
Yes.
She has a lot to share, and we have a lot to talk to her about today.
And we've got quite a few comments that have come in already, people talking about what's happening in their state, about, in their state.
To know, what are some of them saying, Shannon?
Well, in one state, they're starting to let the hairdressers come back. That tells you where the priorities are. And those are people who have to work and eat too, but it tells you a lot, right?
Right.
That the Oregon cases in their county are less, and lots are recovering, and no deaths at all. We love to hear
Wow.
that, people recovering.
That's fantastic.
Somebody else who says that I heard that Vegas is not opening for a while. Well, we heard in Los Angeles here the other day that they're already planning on canceling all of the big summer concerts for the entire summer. I don't know if you heard that, Nancy, that it's like
No,
basically.
I did not hear that, but I know that the
Yeah.
governor is discouraging any large social gatherings for many months. So
Yeah. Yeah. They were basically saying the other day that, well, summer is canceled. So
Right.
I don't know. We'll wait and see what happened. Somebody else is wanting to, says, I wanted to know with their children not being in school, if you think that children on the autism spectrum will fall behind quite a bit. And I think that that's absolutely a concern.
yes.
I think that all kids are going to fall behind. And so what I'm saying to autism parents, that just like when the summer comes and there's less services and all the other kids, we know it's called summer slide. The neurotypical kids will regress over the summer. But they'll catch them up again in the fall when they do the recap in the fall. But that's an opportunity for those of us who have kiddos on the spectrum. If we continue to really be the drivers of making sure that there are things for our kids to do educationally and enriching, our kids can actually catch up. That we can not only maintain the skills that they have right now, and that's job number one, maintaining so that there's no regression. But then once you are maintaining, then you see if you can add some things as well. But maintaining first and foremost. So, it absolutely, you should be concerned about it, but be proactive about it and get involved. I know that, we've been trying to provide a lot of resources here for families and things to do. I want to encourage everybody, go to Autism Live's Pinterest page. Go log on to Pinterest. It's a free thing. And then once you're there, search Autism Live, and we've got tons of activities and we've categorized them so that you can look and see. Some of them are specifically for at home. And there's a whole section, Nancy, on self-care, because we need the self-care, do we not?
We do. The problem is that a lot of moms and dads can't get away from their kids to do self-care. So a lot of it I encourage you to do with your child.
Yes.
I bought a new bicycle during all this. I got a very cheap bicycle at Walmart, and it's absolutely beautiful. And my son Wyatt already bike. So we've been going on bike rides around the neighborhood. So that's a way for me to get exercise while he gets exercise.
Wonderful.
Yeah, if you haven't practiced doing deep breathing with your child and some very basic yoga positions, I encourage you to do that with your child, because I know it's hard for a lot of parents to get away from their kids, but it's also a great time to do arts and crafts. And I know you have a lot of those on your Pinterest page.
Yes,
and that can be very relaxing. And, it's a time maybe when you haven't had time to do that you can do it now. Cooking, projects in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Another thing, we're making homemade dog biscuits today.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, Nancy.
Right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people,
you don't have time to do.
Yes. And people, I'm so glad that you brought up what you brought up, because a lot of times we picture the self-care thing. It's the woman sitting on the beach in the lotus position by herself. And we can't all, have that, especially not right now. But I will tell you that it's as important to do self-care as it is to model self-care for your kiddos. So I love that you said, do it with your kiddo. Like, there's no reason why you can't. We've given you lots of meditation ideas on the show, and there's a whole playlist on the Pinterest page of things, meditations that you can do with your kiddo. And like you said, going bike riding, you can you can paint your toenails together with your kiddos. There are a whole, now it's not going to go the same way as it would have gone if you weren't with your kiddo. Let's not kid ourselves, right? But the fact of the matter is that you do those things with your kiddo. Okay, and people are saying, ooh, lots and lots of things here, and I don't want to miss them. Maybe we'll forego the news because it wasn't that good. I'd rather answer questions. How do you feel?
Actually, one of the stories I did want to just talk about, we don't have to get into detail on it, but it is about the situations at residential homes that comes out of Arizona. So I do want to touch on that, Shannon, because I think that one's important. But let's go ahead and
all right, let's answer a few questions and then let's definitely touch on that. So somebody said, spectrum, if my son has autism and a chromosome disorder and I have no chromosome doctor here in Las Vegas, what would you recommend? And I think both Nancy and I agree that MedMaps is a great place to go. You can look for them online. They can tell you what doctors that they have that are registered, certified with MedMaps, and that's MedMaps with 2 P's, and put MedMaps Autism into Google and you'll be able to find them. And you should be able to find a doctor who can really help you. And you'll see, I'm relatively sure there's at least one in Las Vegas. Somebody else says, I drive school bus, special needs, and no extended school year. Yeah, a lot of things have been canceled through up until fall. We are thriving in home therapy with CARD, but worry about my bus kids. It's hard. It is hard. It's hard for everybody, but I'm glad that you're getting what you need at home with CARD. And of course, I'm always encouraging people, don't stop your therapy right now. Some of you are still doing in-home therapy, and if you can get that, fabulous, wonderful. It is considered a medically necessary treatment, so you can do that. But many of you have switched or are switching to telehealth. And I am urging everyone, because what I keep hearing from all the parents that try it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is saving my keister. So I encourage everybody out there, I'm challenging you, try the telehealth and write into us. Okay, and then we've got Daniel Tiger. People are recommending Daniel Tiger, that they have deep breathing on Daniel Tiger. I love Daniel Tiger because, you know, that's a spinoff of the Mr. Rogers Show.
Is that on PBS, Shannon? Is that on PBS?
It is on PBS. And
Okay.
you can also find, they have a website online too. I always love that PBS does interactive stuff online. So if your kiddo likes watching the show, go find PBS Kids online and find some of the games and educational videos that they have that go with that show. They're really fabulous about making things integrative. And somebody else says, thank you so much. I'm learning a lot from your shows. Thank you, because that's all we want to do, is to be able to help, information and inspiration, right? And we're saying hello to Helen. Hello, Helen. How are you,
Hello,
my friend?
Helen.
Okay, so let's talk about that news story, because I
Yeah.
think this is important to our community.
Right. And this is something, Shannon, the story, basically, to recap it, comes out of Arizona, and it's how the group homes for the disabled have not been given guidelines for dealing with this coronavirus crisis. Many of them have been left to their own devices to figure out what to do. And there is an increased incidence of coronavirus at many of these group homes for the disabled. So not only are they not being given guidelines on and given the protective equipment, the masks and the gloves that are needed, they're not being given any guidelines on how to deal with the situation. And that the kids, the young adults and older adults at these homes are not having their regular programs. So I've been wondering, what are they doing all day with these kids?
Well, and it is catastrophic at this point, because, you know, we've seen that in some of the senior homes and nursing facilities, that once one person is infected with COVID through, you know, a visitor that came through 14 days ago, or a staff member who inadvertently got it and came to work and didn't know, because we're finding out that people are contagious before they're symptomatic, that then it goes wildfire through the facility. And that the people who are working there are often minimum wage workers, that again, the states have given them no information about this is what you should be doing, letting them know about the protective gear that they need to wear. So, we've been seeing in the last 14 days, the news stories about the nursing homes and how those numbers, the deaths in the nursing homes, haven't necessarily been counted. And it's a very scary thing. And now, just in the last 2 weeks, people have been saying, okay, what about these placements where the kids are in, there, and before they would have been going to an internship or to a day program, but now they're left in their facility, gathered together with other people, with people who don't know how to protect them. And we know we have.
And parents have not been able to see their children, or in many cases, talk to them to find out how they're doing. They haven't been able to visit because of the quarantine rules. So we know of at least one mom who was not able to visit her son, had to drop something off, drive up and unroll the window and drop something off. And he was terribly confused. And she has since him out of his group setting. I don't know how that's going, because the group setting was something that was deemed necessary for him
Yes.
to be in residential. And so then if you've got kids that you are pulling out of the residential, how are you dealing with them at home with no help is another
So
situation that's tough.
the whole thing is very, very overwhelming. So we are, we're trying to just shed a little bit light on it. If you are someone who has an adult child or a teenager that is in a group setting, we urge you to reach out and find out if your facility has a plan to deal with this, and check in and see what's happening, because we've seen far too many stories now of places that were not prepared and didn't know what they were doing, and it's a matter of life and death. So please, check not just on your kiddo, check on the staff on what the plan is, and take appropriate measures, whatever those are. And I don't even know what those are. That might mean helping to find PPE for them, or removing your, I don't know. It's so overwhelming, Nancy. It's a bigger
I
problem
know,
than I
it
know.
really is. I feel for those families that are in this position that, don't know what's going on at the homes that their child is placed in. I really feel for them.
I want to go back to the mom who was asking specifically about the chromosome doctor and autism, and then the chromosome part. I think you're going to run into a sticky wicket, that there are very specific doctors who work with chromosome. But my guess is that you're wanting, for your child with autism and a chromosome issue to be as healthy as possible and make the most progress, which may not mean going to a chromosome specialist. It may mean going to a functional medicine doctor who knows a little bit about chromosomes and how they affect someone with autism. That's why I'm recommending the med maps, which would be different than a chromosome doctor. And I also want to tell you that, because she's saying that the doctor is telling her that the closest one would be in Colorado. And that might be the case, but because of this COVID emergency, there were telehealth rules in place, and they have been relaxed during this emergency. So right now, it used to be that we used to tell you about MedMaps doctors, for instance, one of my favorite, Dr. Berger in Florida, in Tampa, Florida, and we would have to tell you now, at a certain point, you had to go to Florida to see him. Then you could find a naturopath here, wherever here is. And if that person was a naturopath, then they could do telehealth with Dr. Berger, and that you could be connected with them that way. Now, all the rules are relaxed. And the truth of the matter is that you can be calling a doctor in another place and saying, they can get the lab work done locally, but you can get a doctor from another state to do a telehealth call with you right now, and it's all straight up legal. It's not probably going to be forever. So I would sort of take advantage of that, and find yourself a doctor, doesn't matter which state, ask them to do telehealth with you. They can Zoom with your kiddo and they can look at the lab reports, but I think there's actually an opportunity. Okay. So it's time. And we love her so much. She's just an incredible person. So Traven, I hope that she is there. And if she is, would you connect us in? We've had a little bit of a wonky week here. You guys, we've had some staff changes and stuff. And so if it looks like our wheels have come off a little bit, it's because they have. In any case, there she is. It all worked.
Hi, Dana.
Okay, so if you play with your thing, and you need to turn on your mic. I know there's a little microphone in the front. Do you see your microphone? She can't hear us yet. Okay. I don't know what to do for her. Let's type to her. Turn on your mic.
That's connecting to audio.
There we go.
There it is.
There we go. Look how fabulous you look.
Oh, look how wonderful you look. I'm giving you big hugs. I miss you both.
How do you look so fabulous this early?
Oh, I prepared.
Well, I said the other day, who's going to be with us on Friday? It's Veda. And I said, she is notorious for being bone to the honest. So I love that you said, yes, I look this way because I prepared. I would expect nothing less from you.
Thank you.
how you are just scrumptious. I said earlier, I've told you this before. I want to grow up to be you, and I've always wanted to be you since I was old enough to have memory. You were what I wanted to grow up to be. Can I just say? So there you go.
Yeah.
And I still want to be you when I grow up. So
Yeah.
there we have it.
And I used to wonder, what does this mean? But then you told me your history. It happened even before you met me.
Yes. No, you were the idea in my head of who I wanted to be when I grew up.
You mean physically, you mean looks wise, everything.
Everything. I wanted to be a tall, beautiful, thin Black woman. I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be somebody who was a mover and a shaker. I wanted to have incredible hair and incredible style. Like, I wanted to be Vena.
Okay,
And
got
I
it.
didn't know I was
picture.
Vena.
Well, and I didn't have a name.
Also, Shannon, you're both comedians.
Yes.
Well, yes.
And Vena,
although she's out there doing it,
she's out there doing it now, which we can talk about. Vena, you've been doing pursuing your lifelong dream of being a comedian and doing stand-up, and you've been doing stand-up regularly, right?
Yes, for an entire year. I did it way back in the 90s, but I just found the time, because you have to be in the clubs late. But I have to say, Nancy, Shannon's play, what was it, a year and a half ago?
The Autism monologues.
In the theater and her comedic writing, that was such an inspiration. And she knows I'm always saying, come on, get back on stage, get back on stage. She could do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, well, we were supposed to be doing it this month, and then this little COVID thing happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about it.
Yes, well, do something live.
Listen, I'm trying. But you've been doing, like I saw the other night that you were still doing stand-up and doing it online, correct?
Out of my living room. Okay, this is facing the dining room. I turn it that way for the living room, and that's my stage for stand-up.
Just can't even believe it. Somebody is saying, hi, Vena, awesome, sending sister love.
Oh, back at that.
There we go.
Vena, I want to talk a little bit. I don't know if you were listening at the beginning of the show, and before we get into what you're up to now, because you've got a lot of exciting new developments with your documentary filmmaking. We were talking about the situation at some of the residential homes, and you have a son that's in a residential placement.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what your experience has been with that during this crisis.
Yes. Just to back up a little bit, he's in a phenomenal home, the White Group home in Palmdale, which is like an hour and a half, sometimes more with traffic away from us. Since this whole happening, I have not been able to see my son. And you guys know, I was there once a week and we'd have wonderful time together. So it was just so painful. But we have, just like we're doing now, Zoom capabilities. And so I've actually seen him more via Zoom.
Wow.
That's fantastic. So your experience with this has been good in terms of what they're providing you at the home to connect with him.
Yeah, I mean, I tried. I tried. I said, what do I have to do? It's like, do I have to show up with my test papers? Do I have to, show you guys I was, social distancing for 14 days? What can I do? And they said, if I take him out, he cannot come back. Yeah. And our apartment simply would not help him during this confinement period. He needs a yard. He needs a trampoline. He needs, all that he has at his disposal right now. So he gets to see his mommy a little bit more, and we've been reading. I had talked in his last IEP to the school about giving him age appropriate reading, which at his age, they had read The Great Gatsby. So we're reading The Great Gatsby every time I talk to him.
That's awesome. See, this is why I want to be you when I grow up, because this is how you roll. You take whatever's happening, you figure out, what do I need to do? And ask questions. You ask your questions, and then you say, okay, how am I going to make the most of what this is? That's who you are as a mom. That's who you are as a person, and that's who you are as a filmmaker. So let's talk about you as a filmmaker, Dana, and what you've been up to over the years and what's going on right now.
All right, you got it. Yeah, when it came to filmmaking, I just did what I had to do. Back, you guys know my background's in documentaries and news. And when I was at CNN, we won an Emmy for our 9/11 coverage. And both my guys were diagnosed with autism. So when my marriage dissolved, my friends looked at my life and said, "This is wild. You need to create a documentary." Of course, I was deep in depression, but eventually pulled myself out of it, went to Craigslist, got a little bitty flip camera, and bought Final Cut Pro online and shot and edited the first film, My 2-Year-Old Boys, which screened internationally and was nominated for an Africa Movie Academy Award. Craziness. I had no idea the level of acclaim it would achieve. So immediately at that point, the boys were a little older because it takes a long time. We parents were starting to wonder what happens when we're gone. So that nugget just, I couldn't let go of. And so I started videotaping interviews for this second documentary, Believing in Miracles in Spite of Autism, meaning I'm believing that somehow all these programs that we parents are creating when we're gone will still exist, will still serve our children, because 1 in 59, that's a lot of individuals, 1 in 37 boys. So, you know, when we're gone, that's a ton, that's millions. And, you know, these are numbers that were calculated back in 2014. So we don't even know the numbers and what's going to happen. So we're focusing on work initiatives, housing initiatives, and a shift in the education paradigm, because we all know of, Dylan Barmouche and Ido Kedar and Justice Killebrew, all these individuals, and, you know, the film with Deej, you know, there
Yes.
are non-speakers who have been taught ways to communicate using one finger, pointing at letters and spelling. And this, had this been in kindergarten for all of our children, because it helps the partial speakers. And I'm so excited for people like Edlin Pina out at, what's the university out in Thousand Oaks? Anyway, she has a wonderful,
Cal
wonderful.
Lutheran? Is it Cal
Yeah.
Lutheran?
Yes, Cal Lutheran. They have a wonderful seminar once a year where they bring all the non-speakers together and they dialogue at tables. Now, there are people in institutions who hold the reins for funding who aren't even aware of this. And that's why I'm doing this film, because there are people out there who don't know what they don't know.
That's
Right. You're
absolutely
very
true.
involved with the nonverbal community. We want to say that, Dana. You have a son who's nonverbal.
Yes.
And so you've been very involved with that segment of the autism population and bringing light to some of the developments there that you were just talking about.
Yes, I in research for my first film, I watched A Mother's Journey, where this woman comes from Switzerland and she meets Soma of Halo. I'm not going to mess up Soma's last name because I reverence her too greatly. She came up with a method with her own non-speaking son. And one of her first students was Ido. And what I learned at Edlin's conference is it's effective for partial speakers. Partial speakers have more going on in there. And through spelling, they have elaborate thought, where vocally, it's quite minimal. So I'm just pushing for that. You know, I have the nonverbal communication mandate bill proposal, which I'm going to raise up soon. And we'll get that into play and get these methods into the classrooms.
You're
Okay,
always
let's talk
making
a little
difference.
bit, Dana, about what you found out during your experience of putting together this film about what's going to happen when we're gone. What have you found out in researching and producing this?
And I want to say too, we have a trailer. So I want to tell Traven, let's have Dana answer that question, but I want to have Traven being ready because we're going to show the trailer in just a couple of minutes here.
You got it. The first thing I found out is most people who aren't connected with autism, it never crossed their mind. The second thing I found out is that if we don't get them aware, legislation may come out down the road that will work against our children. And so the main thing I learned is that we need to educate those who don't know so that they will support this population once we're gone.
Well, and Dana, I think it's even bigger than that, because I think that there's a large section of the autism community that doesn't know. And I'm going to include myself in that because you are my educator on these things.
Yeah, I'm not my educator. I find from everybody else, I consider myself, one of those DJs. I find somebody who knows something, I make them my friend. I read up on them. I get all their data. I interview them and get them on camera for this documentary.
Yeah.
I'm sure also, Dana, you found out that we're really not prepared, like you said, for the onslaught of numbers that are going to be entering. The kids that are entering adulthood are already adults, and what to do with them. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And that's why I'm so excited to ask people to donate, because listen, there's the ABLE Foundation that works with community colleges to create actual career employment, not just the job. Then there's Extraordinary Ventures, out of North Carolina, with where they are creating jobs based on the talent of all the spectrum adults. They develop where they will work. It's, so many different things are happening out there. And Joanne Laura with Autism Works Now. And see, all these education, employment initiatives are duplicatable. So we want to show how they created it, how they created the model again in another city, how other parents learned of it and ran with it and have autistic adults being employed right now. And we want to continue that.
Now you brought up donation. So, because you're at a place in the film where you could use some money to finish this off. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I am looking to raise $179,000. Back when I did my first film, a couple thousand, my good friend Gia Gulden with the Samaritan's House gave me a couple hundred. I used all my income tax returns. All my money goes to my documentary film. Let me tell you, every little 50, every little 100, I shoot with it. Yeah, and and then I had a girlfriend, Susie Stringazer, who is passed now. She bought me a camera. So since then, the documentary industry has changed. Everything is 4K. Everything is big money. They're spending millions on these documentaries. So in order for us to compete and even grab the eyeballs of people out there, we have to deliver a high caliber product. So I've been fortunate enough to shoot the interviews with every dime I've been given. We got a grant that sustained us the last couple years from the Edward Harris Foundation, and people like Ariva Martin and Nancy and Lisa Wayans and Teresa Jackson have given multiple times, really nice sizable donations. And my buddy, Dr. Michael Herron down in Atlanta, he's helped support us. So we've been shooting interviews. Now we have the bulk of the B-roll. We know that's a TV term. The bulk of the footage that you will see throughout the entire documentary. I've got to hire expensive crews for a 4-day shoot. I mean, a 4-hour shoot to shoot all these people, all these places. And then we've got to edit it. And our editing budget is somewhere around $71,000. And we want to start editing in January 21.
Okay, so we're going to show everybody the trailer, and we're going to invite you and encourage you to be in. Haven't you always wanted to be an investor in a film that could change the world? So we're going to ask you to go to the couch cushions, $5, $10, $5,000 if you have it. This is a place where you can move the dial. We're also going to do a shout out right now to Michelle Obama, who has a documentary film company, and say, Michelle, we need you now. right? Because this is who would be the best possible person for you to partner with. I've just decided that now. You never have said that to me. But Michelle Obama, we've always wanted you to partner with something for the autism community. Here you are. We need you. We need you right now. But in the meantime, let's all pitch in so that we can show Michelle Obama why their documentary, because the Obamas have, they're partnering, they're producing documentary films. They want films that can change the world. Here we go. So Traven, have we got that trailer ready to go?
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you. Are you kidding me? We love you so much. Take a look, you guys. Here's the trailer, Believing in Miracles in Spite of Autism. And then there was a pause.
This is dedicated to all the people that suffer from autism all over the world.
Autism burst onto the scenes in the 1930s, but began rapidly increasing over the past 20 years. Incidence rates before 1985, 1 in 2,500. 2000, 1 in 150. 2006, 1 in 110. 2008, 1 in 88. 2012, 1 in 68. 2014, 1 in 59 children diagnosed with autism each year in America, and 1 in 37 boys. And as parents of autistic children await the Center for Disease Control's most recent statistics, the bigger concern is, what's going to happen to our children when we, the parents, are gone? And they are adults, 50, 60, 70 years of age. Who's really gonna care for them?
I'm doing my best to raise my children so that they can be independent. But I don't know what would happen to them if I'm not around. They could end up in jail. Studies show that thousands of diagnosed and undiagnosed people with autism are behind bars with little to no support.
It is really unfortunate in so many families, and for decades, not long ago, these children were being isolated, kept in the back room, never being introduced to anything or anyone else.
This is really scary. The fear of most parents with children diagnosed with autism is beyond belief.
That could be my Bakari. He doesn't have language. What would happen to him? And studies show that autistic people have an elevated risk of becoming homeless.
I believe government's core principal function is to provide support to its citizenry, or at the state level, its residents, particularly those who can't provide it for themselves.
It's society's responsibility. It's not just the parents. We have to step in and do something.
Oh, Vena, it's so good. There it is, you guys. That's where you can go to donate. Please, please, please donate.
Yeah, fantastic, Vana. Really, that encapsulates what you're trying to accomplish here. And your skills as a documentarian are just unbelievable. I was so moved by that. And wonderful to see your sons, Bakari and Carter, there too.
And Wyatt. Wyatt was in there. Yeah, lovely shot of Wyatt.
Quick shot of me and Wyatt.
And so many other people that we love. And I think Nancy's right. I think the thing that I was talking about before about how you were just to the bone honest, you have a way as a filmmaker. You know, when we first saw the screening of My 2-Year-Old Boys, and I remember sitting with a group of moms and people were so moved they couldn't breathe. I remember at one point thinking, oh my gosh, like, am I gonna make it? Because I can't, like, there's so much emotion, there's no noise I can make. I can't get air in or out because you take us there. You absolutely take us there. And you do it very lovingly, and you do it with a sense of humor and grace, but you take us to the place where we don't want to look, and you force us to look. And it's a gift that you have. I'm so glad that you have persisted. I know that's your middle name, persistence. But it's a good thing that you do. You're doing the right things.
That is so kind of you. Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate it. I just kind of go with the flow. I've always been a fly by the seat of my pants type of person. I get a bright idea, that light bulb goes off, and I don't know where I'm going, but I just go, and I go full speed ahead.
Yeah, well, you're the kind of person that I want to spend my life with. You know what I mean? Like surrounded by people like you, because that's the good stuff. It's absolutely the good stuff.
It's a mutual admiration society. I feel the same way about you. I feel the same way about that mover and shaker right there, Miss
I know.
Jackson. She's a fireball, that one.
I know.
Let me ask you, we saw in that clip a lot of very important public figures that you pursued for interviews in this. Do you feel at all hopeful after talking to some of these? We had Senator Holly Mitchell, for example, Gloria Molina you had there in that clip, and I imagine you have many others that you speak to in this film. Are you hopeful after speaking with them at all? We know this is a tough situation that we're facing, but are you at all hopeful?
Of course I'm hopeful. Primarily, Nancy, because I choose to be hopeful. These particular legislators have always been on our team. Gloria Molina, while she was supervisor, she helped the Latino community in many ways, starting organizations, being a voice for parents with children on the spectrum, and actually going into homes and going into schools and making a difference. Holly Mitchell has been one of Areva Martin's right-hand, left-hand people. Areva knows how to galvanize legislators. And yes, we do have more. One I'm looking forward to interviewing is Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, who's worked with Special Needs Network, and they've opened an autism center. So that was several years in the making. They broke ground in 2019. So we're going to get him on camera. And another advocate, Holly Robinson Pete with the Holly Rod Foundation, she has a vocational center named after her son, RJ's place, where my son, Carter, and many people's children were able to become employed.
Yeah, you've got two incredible sons, and they're very different, like they would be, like anybody's sons would be different, but they are also very different in where they fall on the spectrum. And tell just a little bit for people who don't know you about the story of your boys, Vena.
Well, my oldest Carter, he was just so cute. I had children late in life, people. So by the time I had gotten all my partiness out of me, that's a lie. It's still there. Anyway, I had Carter, and I wanted to do everything for him. So I was that crazy mother who did flashcards while he was in the crib. I put everything educational around him. So when he began to hit milestones, they were hit or miss. He could sing songs. He knew his ABCs. He knew Barney had just come out, so he could do all the Barney songs, but he couldn't put a 3-word sentence together. That's when we started seeing the jargon and the echolalia. He couldn't touch his nose. And fortunately, I had other parents around me with kids his age, and they were doing things, and I was kind of looking at him. Well, anyway, autism was new. This was back in 1997-ish. And he got diagnosed. Well, by the time we were going through the process, it's a lengthy process. You get one exam, and then you're put on a waiting list for several weeks, sometimes months, for the next process. Well, Bakari was hitting all his benchmarks and had language, little benchmark language, not full-on sentences. But then his entire countenance changed, and he really went away from us. So we were able to get him diagnosed. And initially I thought he wasn't affected, but then it turned out it was a bit more severe. Now, because of these methods that, fortunately, Ito's mom, Tracy Kedar, is working with my youngest son, teaching him how to communicate through spelling and pointing to letters, and eventually he'll graduate to keyboards. I found out he's incredibly intelligent, incredibly brilliant. And see, we were taught back then that people like Carter were smarter than people like Bakari, but they're all extremely intelligent. They just like everybody else, we have different ways of showing it. And some of us have better ability of showing it through different means, through different avenues. Like some people simply aren't articulate, but when they sing, they communicate deeper than anybody who, can recite a speech, And then there are those who can paint something and it just moves people beyond their lifetime, but they weren't able to communicate in a, round table conversation. So Carter's verbal, he's able to actually not be detected in most social settings. Bakari, if he doesn't speak and he stands still, he's able to not be detected in most social settings. But then when people ask him a question, he's not able to respond. And then when he gets what's called STEM hyperactive, he runs and jumps and does things that typical people just don't do. And then he's detected. So they're very different, but both, I am grateful, both very loving, very affectionate, and they're both a bit vigilant to help improve their own lives in their timing.
And your oldest son, Carter, he still he lives with you. Is that correct? But Bakari is the one that is in a place where you're able to Zoom with him every day. There we go. Okay.
Dana, I have a question about. I knew you, of course, during the transition of Bakari going into residential placement. Talk a little bit about, because we have so many families, including myself, that have that in the future for them. Talk about the adjustment for that. Was that difficult for you? And now that you are where you are, the sense of probably relief that you have about that. Can you talk to that?
Yes, let's start with where I am now, because I haven't been taken there in a while and I started welling up all over again. But right now, especially during this thing we're going through, what I call it that shall not be named. I'm a Harry Potter fan. I love that term. So yeah, I mean, right now, I know I made the best choice because he is well cared for and by people who run a home that follow the law, follow the rules, and help their clients thrive. So that's incredible. Now, he always had behaviors ever since he was a tiny guy, and he would go off to the point that the way we learned to handle it was to go in the room and lock ourselves in the room and listen until he was done. And then we'd come out because we had, experienced some really horrific episodes. So these would come and go, and we consulted a psychiatrist who was able to, different times provide us a medication which would curb these behaviors. Behaviors is how we refer to them in our industry. And then he'd have a growth spurt, and then things would get good and he could come off the meds, because I'm not a real medicine person. So we went to natural medicines for a while, and then he grew, and then behaviors returned. And so all along, we knew this was a potential, and I always kept his dad in the loop, and I always kept the regional center in the loop. I let our case coordinator know that we may need to access the option of a group home. So they were always mindful to keep us aware of what group homes were available, where they were, how we could access them, and to keep us ready to be on a waiting list. Because, you know, if the time came where we said he's got to go to a group home, we didn't want it to last a long time and then more damage be done. So I had an experience, really, now in hindsight, I know what it was all about. Anyway, I took a major pounding in public. It was so upsetting because he lost it, and he lost it in his communication class. He was doing it once a week, and then they escalated to twice a week. But what I realize now that he's receiving communication, it wasn't challenging him, and I couldn't understand why he wasn't cooperating.
I think she's frozen on us, Nancy.
Yeah, I think she froze on us.
Okay, I'll keep talking. They say
okay,
that
sorry.
kids are actually smarter and they aren't being challenged, and that's why they act out in class. Well, the same thing was happening with Bakari. He was in a communications class that wasn't pushing him and really doing what he knew he wanted to share. So he stopped participating, and this made me mad, and I was upset about it. So I just said, well, we're going home. Well, we hit the parking lot, and he retaliated. And I'm sure everything he was saying in all of those strikes that he landed upon me, which the next day had me seeing stars. You know how you see stars in the cartoons?
Yeah.
It was no cartoon. I heard the ringing, like they say boxers hear a ringing. I heard the ringing. Anyway, I realized he was saying, they don't know what I know. I can tell more. I can do more. So now he's doing it, and his behaviors are pretty much nil now that he can communicate. But back then, as soon as, I don't know what made him stop, but when he stopped, we got in the car, and I said, listen, I told you, if this ever happened again, you're gonna have to live with someone else. So with him there in the car, I called our regional center coordinator. I left a voicemail detailing what had happened and that it was time for placement. He understood that, and I knew he understood that. So she was fortunate in that she kept in touch with an ABA specialist, and the ABA specialist knew the better homes because she worked in them, and recommended the white group home. And they had just purchased a second home and had a spot for my son Bakari. When we went to interview and take him to see the space, a young man had just been placed prior who walked down the stairs, who happened to have gone to Bakari's school. So he had a buddy that he knew. And
that's great.
It's really a phenomenal success story.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Vanna, because I know there are a lot of families out there that, you know, have children with behaviors that they are looking at, you know, the future, what the future might hold. And you're really an inspiration to so many parents out there in terms of having a child that's nonverbal and dealing with that situation. You're a real inspiration to them.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Shannon. You know, everybody who knows me sends parents to me. They can give them my number. I've helped many parents navigate these waters. And someone told me, what if I had done it when he was younger? Maybe that would have prevented what happened later. Don't know, but I just let people know it is a good thing. Just find the right home.
We've only got 2 minutes left here, so I want to get some. Got some business we got to take care of. First, people are asking. They're saying they're so moved by the trailer for the new film, and they're asking, where can we watch the first film, Dana? Where can we send them so they can find out more, get links to be able to donate, and to watch everything that they can about both films?
Well, contact me. I guess, wow. Yeah, email is
Well,
easy.
how about this? How about they can write to us if they specifically want, and we'll forward it off to you. Let's do that. So you can write to me, s.penrod@autism-live.com, and I'll connect you with Dana. Because to see the first film, they can do a showing in their community. Maybe you want to start doing a virtual showing. I don't know. But like,
I'm open to screenings. You can do it in your living room, 2, 5 people. I recommend that you do it with the group because, as Shannon said, it's so emotional. If you watch it yourself, you might stop and not come back. So
you gotta have some people, gotta have community to talk about, even if you guys watch it and then discuss it on Zoom, but you gotta have some support. It's emotional. It's a journey.
And I can Zoom in for Q&A afterwards. I would love to be able to share and connect heart to heart after you've seen it. But yeah, I have it available. I can send you the link and the password.
Is there a Facebook page or a website for the new film where they can go and check things out?
We have an Instagram page for the new film. It's called In Spite of Autism, In Spite of Autism.
Okay, fantabulous. We want to thank you so much for being here. I got to give a quick shout out for the fact that a week from today, Nancy doesn't even know this, I haven't told her yet. A week from today on the show, we are interviewing together, Nancy, you and I, Eustacia Cutler, Temple Grandin's mother, is with us next week on the show.
So excited about that, Shannon. Yes, very excited.
So next week on the show on Monday, listen to this lineup. On Monday, we've got special education attorney Bonnie Yates and autism advocate Cassidy Hooper is going to be with us on Monday. Then on Tuesday, Temple Grandin's back here with us live on Tuesday answering your questions. I know. Yeah. We're going to have Temple and her mother in the same week. It's like mind-blowing. Okay, Wednesday, we're having Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh on the show to answer your questions. And then on Thursday, we are having teen actor Kobe Bird. You've seen him on The Good Doctor. You have seen him now on the hit show Lock and Key. I just got goosies. He's here with us on Thursday. We haven't had him since Lock and Key went totally gonzo on Netflix. So he'll be here. And then we're going to finish out the week with Eustacia Cutler here with Nancy and I live answering your questions. So it's a great week. I'm very excited about it. But Dana, so great to have you here. Nancy, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you, honey, for being on. You're such an inspiration to everybody.
You are. We love you.
As are both of you to me.
Love, love, love. So you guys, we'll be back here on Monday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And give yourselves a hug from me as well.
Bye-bye for now, you guys. There we go. Bye-bye.